can see everybody in chat. I don't know how many people we're going to get tonight. And so we have some automatic moderation. That's no big deal. We can use donuts about it. Let's go. Whoops, you shouldn't be there. And there we go. Good to see everybody. It is your friend, Duck. Kevin, good to see you. Israeli. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, good to see you, Kevin. Yeah, I'm hoping if you're in Israel, I'm not in Israel, but if you're in Israel, I'm deeply hoping that y'all get to, yeah, I'm hoping Benjamin Netanyahu, as well as whoever is leading Hamas, is able to rope things together. I hope we get good news about a ceasefire. I hope people are able to see that roping in Iran and the United States into this conflict was way further than it needed to go. And that, yeah, there were more solutions present available that we didn't get to. So good to see you. Thanks for joining. Hey, you look like Dr. House if you grew a beard. Yeah, who knows? I used to watch that show. I remember the intro to that show. Yeah. Dr. House is about a genius pathologist. He's a doctor. It was a very famous show in the United States, right? Very famous show in the US. And it went for like 11 seasons. They kept making it. And Dr. House was a very famous pathologist who had this very cold sort of, almost distant sort of demeanor to him. But he also had these personal problems, right? He because he had like this chronic pain, he was like an addict and stuff. But you would get all these really interesting medical stories and the sort of gimmick of the show. It was a great show, but Dr. House, would look at patients and then you would see all the like happenings inside of the body that he was describing. So it was very cool. I think people that were yearning for some intelligentsia, I was in college when that show was on. And so, I would, like either Monday, Wednesday, Friday, or Tuesday, Thursday, I would have class. And, I was super into science. I loved Sam Harris in college. I was into like stats. I was a political science major. So when I learned something, I was like, where's the data? That's like what political science is like it's kind of like, okay, let me hear the story that you're telling. But then after that, let me see the data. Let me see what sort of numbers you have to sort of back up that narrative. Beer, good to see you. Sharkman, great to see you. Running Man, thanks for joining in chat, everyone. Sup, my main homeless man? What's up, brother? What's up? We're going to clean some of the dirt out of our teeth and all that stuff. Clean the dirt out of our teeth or make the best of it. Column A, column B. Somebody said YouTube. So Gunfiend, I don't know if I can say your username even, but bro says, I'ma suck a fart out. Yo, anyone in chat, I don't know if you're from the US, but how do you say Tony Yayo in either Farsi or in like a Florida Bama Shore dialect? You know what I'm saying? How do you say Tony Zaz? Tony Zaz, bro. No, but yeah, House was a cool show. Yeah, there's this famous show on Fox called Doctor House a while ago. Um, you could watch Scarface and then watch House. But yeah, I think great shows, great television shows, kind of keep you where you are. Keep you where you are, push you, to get just a little uncomfortable, that kind of stuff. I didn't like, for like such a smart guy, right? Your buddy Duck. If you guys know me, if you guys have been here before, I'm like a genius. I'm like a hidden secret genius. But, uh, I didn't Neil deGrasse Tyson did that Into the Cosmos with Seth MacFarlane, and they were like, yeah, let's pull back the curtains and show people what's sort of like behind the like show people like what's behind the universe. And then when I got to be like 30 and I actually like learned a little bit about physics, eventually, I knew the story. But when I started learning about the different pieces, parts, I was like, oh, yeah, that is exactly what they did, but it doesn't feel like it was made for someone like me. Eric Sachs, what's up? Am I Rabbi Shmuley both teach? I don't know what that means. I don't know who that is. If that's a YouTube rabbi, I am not. Shout out to Israeli citizens, right, bro? Yeah, shout out to everybody. I don't know what that means, actually. Banned. No, shout out to everyone. I don't know who that is. Chad Haley, I still watch it, reruns. That's cool, yeah. The one, just to sound like my dad, right? When you're 35, you can start sounding like your dad. But I watched some NCIS and some SWAT, two also great television shows where you have like these drama characters going through and like there's action scenes, there's car chases. It's like, hell yeah, bro. I will, when I'm done like working out or, who knows, maybe I had like mentally strenuous conversations, like I'll always watch that stuff. Why you got a homeless beard? I just haven't shaved, Running Man. I just haven't shaved in a couple years. Every time someone asks, I'll show you the full thing. It goes down below my nipples. It's that long. Goes down below that. Brett, good to see you. May not be a relevant question if I am Jewish or Jewish, but yeah, great question. Right now, politically, someone brought up Israel, Palestine, Gaza, all that stuff. So I'm a huge fan of peace, huge fan of hopefully Netanyahu gets to that peace deal. And hopefully, as much as we want to support, if you're in the West and you want to support Western leaders, like now's also the time to be actually critical, right? Actually critical, we all say. That's normally how we do this. Bezo, that show is good. Yeah. Good to see you. Teresa, what's up? Thanks for stopping in. Thanks for saying hi in chat. Nicholas, good to see you. Razors are very expensive. And once, what I realized, I tried shaving it once. Maybe this was like my Howard Hughes moment. I tried shaving it once because I have a Braun electric razor. One of those like real nice ones. It's decent, but after it got a little bit too long, the guards, even with like the longest guard or the shortest guard, it just didn't do anything. So yeah, it's never happened. Scott, thanks for saying what's up. Good to see you. Azuka, I look like realism. I don't know if that's a streamer or a YouTuber. I don't know. That realism to me already invokes like political theory, aspects of philosophy, that kind of stuff. Write a book, man. Yeah, all that stuff. Sharky, thank you for the support. Please do not love me too hard, too much. Durka, are Palestinians evil? No, definitely not. I think one of the essential parts, I'll tell part of the story of the lead up to October 7th today. It's just interesting to consider that a lot of the leaders of Hamas, some of who were associated or are part of violent political groups, whether you want to call them freedom fighters or terror groups, but a lot of those folks were born in refugee camps, either in Palestine or in Syria. So it's just crazy. When we talk about intersectionality, and the importance of being able to take like a worldview, like a sweeping worldview. I wouldn't call intersectionality a worldview, just maybe to be too offensive, and that's my bad. But like I get it. But like if I'm talking about liberalism and I'm talking about John Rawls or something, and I don't see aspects of these stories popping up, it's very important we have those discussions. We talk about why a state like Israel, who someone was saying, they've got 300 nukes, right? You've got Mossad, you've got, specialty offensive cyber units, you have modern military equipment. So like, what is that stuff actually for? In the US, what is it for? What is it for? Who's it for? All that stuff. I'm not going to be able to make it through all of these comments. I'm going to zoom on down a little bit. Don, Mystical Misfit, James C, good to see y'all. CJ Bo, hey buddy back. People call me Charles Manson. Chad Haley, maybe you're an artist and a poet. I love it. Hey, it's Duck Woo. Hey, GT, good to see you, bro. Good to see you. I know I bump into you in a few places. Good to see you. Larry Rowe, talk about Desi nuts. Yeah, India. Very interesting. I was just thinking about this. India's got a reputation for, in the US, if you just watch like daytime talk TV, it's like, well, what happens in this country of 1 billion people? Well, there's a lot of like Indian scam centers and stuff like that. It's useful to know about. Did you guys know that depending on how you measure cyber attacks, there are either 5 cyber attacks every second or 190,000 cyber attacks every second? And so in the big scheme of things, what are Indian cyber criminals doing? And yeah, what's the actual storyline there, boss? Hey chief, I need to get on the readout. What do you need to get on the readout for? I need to understand why Jameson on our unit, he's got my grandma's credit card number. Why does he have your grandma's credit card number? Well, he hacked her. He thought it was funny. Sierran, good to see you. Sammy, good to see you. Thanks for joining in. You people in the US don't know much about something. Don't know much about blank. I apologize. I'm sorry. Maybe it is true. You have a very recognizable Irish name, McDonough. I was just talking to someone in Ireland last night, actually. I have a friend on Discord. He's one of the few people I would trust or actually ask for advice. But yeah, and so, the interesting thing is that, when we look at like just how the internet sort of evolved and allowed people from different countries to talk to each other, in some places like Ireland, I think as it were, people say some, I don't know how it happens or whatever, but, like, it's weird. The US and Ireland are not that different, and yet they're one, No, that doesn't happen everywhere. Zeke, have you heard? Oh, sorry. I go 7up. Hey, from Romania, from Transylvania. Hey, good to see you. Thanks for joining in. Apologize. Meow G. What's up, Ralph Perry? Don. Sounds like you guys want to do geopolitics tonight. I wasn't planning on doing geopolitics at all. I was planning on talking about Trump's big beautiful bill. I did, and this is complete honesty, right? My hand to God, the Constitution, what have you. My hand where it should actually be in this scenario. I'd considered talking about government spending. Obviously I have an American perspective on this. But yeah, a lot of economists are saying this big, beautiful bill it's not actually going to help the economy, not as much as people are saying it is. It sounds like really shady, like almost this like back alley, financial projections. Economists are really grim about this. And yeah, in the US, we end up seeing things like increasing consumer debt when that happens, right? It's false promises, it's fear and buzz and excitement, all kind of mixed into one. Yeah, 3 trillion to the rich. Ralph Perry's got a great point there. What makes me an expert? I'm not an expert. Yeah, I was a market watcher when I was doing like, big dog career things. Yeah, I've taken political economy. I've taken in college, this was 15 years ago, but macroeconomics. I worked at a finance company too. So like, I used to have like securities licenses. So these are all like small time things, but sort of understanding, political economy often talks about how things move around the world. Might ask a little bit about what advantage in competition does or what free trade does, trying to understand those mechanisms. Just sort of interesting. So Mark Green, I'm not an expert. It's a great question. I would like to hear your opinion, all that stuff, or what we should be talking about. Musa says, smart, ugly bill, big ugly bill. Yeah. We are in trouble in the USA. Yeah, we've got, I think, so everyone in chat, I think you're going to hear a lot of people that want to tell you what to think about the big, beautiful bill. Maybe those are correct opinions. Maybe at the end of the day, those are correct opinions. And so, yeah, there's diverse perspectives already. So I was on Rand Paul's website. I'm not a libertarian, but Rand Paul very famously is about limited government. He's very, very, I would say very like gun shy. He's very standoffish about things like, he's one guy, right? But he's very standoffish about things like, infringing on civil liberties. Anytime where you see the government getting more power, then more responsibility, it's bad for people, but it's also expensive. And that's bad for people. That's Rand Paul's line. And what he says the big beautiful bill is doing is removing financial guardrails from the federal government. Removing financial guardrails from the federal government. It's a beautiful way to say this, that even if you are the most audacious Republican or Democratic senator, maybe you want federal income tax to go down to 10% or something. You're allowed to run a campaign in the United States to say that, but you wouldn't be able to actually pass a bill based on a budget that does that, right? If you had some budget that had law in there that reduced all forms of taxes down to the point where the deficit ballooned too much, that would be illegal because of the money, right? You would not be able to do it because of the money. You'd have to be a little creative with that. Would be a very complicated thing to get done, right? Don't let someone talk down to you like that. But and so Rand Paul, one of the reasons he objected to the bill and didn't vote for the big beautiful bill, the big ugly bill, just what is now the US budget, is because he said, well, the financial guardrails are gone. And so what is left to talk about, right? What is left to talk about for a guy like Rand Paul? There's nothing. He's going to spend he feels he's going to spend the rest of his term, and if he has a term after that, talking to lawmakers about being more conservative about spend. And then if you're on the left, if you're a little more center or left, you might say, well, look, I didn't totally endorse, in 2 years, Trump's going to ask to re-up, or, someone in Congress is going to try and fundraise for a border wall, this kind of stuff. Maybe if I'm on the right, I'm thinking like, well, look, I didn't totally vote for, governors all over the United States to now be competing for federal funding, right? We're going to see there's a lot of financial incentive for governors to work into these political relationships where they can get money, they can create the projections that show it's good to invest in their state. And now that's going to happen. So just little externalities and stuff. Supernova, good to see you. Trump is worse than Joe Biden. That's another question. Maybe we'll bring that up later. But yeah, if I'm doing the really savvy, smart guy stuff, and I'm wondering if a new fishing hole is going to open up or whatever it is, I'm wondering when I get my next vacation day. Joe Biden said that, like, look, leave the US alone, fund what's working. Let people figure it out. People are smart enough to figure it out. Trump seems to have been telling us that, like, well, we have to put dollars back in their pocket, and then people are smart. So if I'm strawmanning any position, let me know. Mr. Siege Thicks, with politicians saying create laws to arrest mothers and fathers for disagreeing with school counselors, deciding if their kids, something about, Mr. Siege. So, we're not talking about mental health or treatments today. Maybe at some point we can have a conversation clarifying, without taking a position, what trans rights look like, as well as just what like medical literature looks like, if you've ever looked that stuff up. But it's usually about sort of acute cases. I don't want to get that granular, even though it's like really important to understand that stuff. All I could say, bro, is Chinese human clones, right? Chinese human clones, because the US wouldn't or couldn't. So Chinese clones, that's all I'm saying, is Chinese clones. Also, if you are from China watching the stream, what's up? Go ahead, slap that like button, I think, subscribe or something. And yeah, it's good to see everyone. Ralph Perry, just a helpful friend, good to see you. I haven't met, there's actually another news story. So just a helpful friend says gays for Trump. Super, totally useful comment. So thank you to just a helpful friend for all of that. And so, there is actually, where was it? I'm gonna mess this up. I think it's Iowa just removed their protection for gender identity. And so, I know that a lot of people who see if you see what the historic, two things. So you see the historical movement for gay rights and stuff like that. But then you also see that like ideology and identity and just people, like the reason that may be formed, just like also maybe the reason that like, I'm a little more centrist, I'm a little more conservative. So why do you think that is, right? Did I not work at a, whatever, I didn't work at a company with 20,000 people, right? I'm going to change my story now, but and I wouldn't expect someone else to change their story. Who knows? Maybe I was born by the bayou in the literal sense, and I'm wondering what everyone is always so loud about, or why they're so protective and aggressive because of that. And for that reason, I'm a big MAGA fan or whatever. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe we don't talk about lived experience that much, but the reason there's such a close tie between trans rights and gay rights, and also what people say about their identity, and kind of wonder why this is politicized. It's a good comment, good question. Yeah. What would it take for, if someone was, with any sort of identity, outside of MAGA voting for Trump, what does that look like? There are people. Side Q, bro looks like season 5 Walter White. Yeah. That's when Walt was not feeling good, if I remember, right? Yeah, I remember that. I remember all of that stuff. No, that's funny. Yeah, if you got a house in New Hampshire or something, Jesse Pinkman. God damn it, Jesse. That's too funny, dude. That's the nicest. That is probably the nicest way someone has called me, either a drug addict or a homeless person. Charles Manson. I get those ones all the time. But like season 5 Walter White, I still got a little cash. I'm feeling good. Robert Lawrence says, never heard so many liberals complain about the economy getting back on track. Like it's a good thing. So the economy getting back on track, yeah, maybe it's not even a priority, Robert. Maybe it's not even a priority for the economy to get back on track. And I don't mean that as like glib or tongue-in-cheek. There's people that might be wrong, like Zohran Mamdani running in New York as a socialist, and he wants the government to build grocery stores. So who knows? Maybe that's not a priority, but maybe it is. The economy getting back on track. Yeah. Maybe it wasn't because of Joe Biden, but, being able to contextualize why even under the Biden administration, why when our economy was successful, why that was. Maybe it probably wasn't because of Joe Biden's work ethic. His presence, his ability to talk in front of a microphone, those types of things probably helped. I don't think anyone can deny that. Yeah, but from my perspective, what do you guys think? Should we not even be talking about the big beautiful bill? Should we be talking about credit card companies? Do you guys want to talk about credit cards and finance and stuff? Yeah, I took back in the day when I was working in finance. Maybe this is like a little bit of me being not disciplined, or like just like young adult not having like a ton of patience, actual ADHD, but like I took like 6 months of CFP classes, certified financial planning classes, because my employer at the time would pay for it. So I got through, like annuities and, like figuring out a core satellite portfolio, that kind of stuff. How to look at like debt on a spreadsheet, how to look at net worth and stuff like that, like annuitize, what people can actually know and understand about stuff. But yeah, John Webb asks if I voted for Trump. No, I voted for Kamala. Yeah, I did vote for Kamala. This is supposed to be sort of a, I'm trying to have a place where people can ask great questions, even if I disagree with the premise of the question or the question itself, but trying not to do that as much. But we can argue and fight a little bit. Sorry if I'm missing some of you guys. I know y'all are chatting and all this. Good to see y'all. If you want to hit like and subscribe, I appreciate you. Why would I ever vote for Kamala? Yeah, I think it would be great to have continued the era of Bidenomics. People say Bidenomics like it's a bad thing. I thought it was really useful to, when I imagine someone who maybe, and sorry for becoming like a white privilege dealer a little bit, but like when I think of people all over the United States from all different backgrounds who maybe have worked their way up to a $60,000 or $80,000 a year job, and they're not satisfied, they're wondering what's next. They feel like the universe almost has called or asked them to do more with that. Yeah, go figure it out, right? Go figure it out. But, if there's a way to figure it out more efficiently, and we do that through, finding different ways to annuitize like a total tranche of like bank debt or something, and it mathematically works out better, that's Kamala Harris for you. The economy was so, Ronnie DeFelice, I'm going to swear, the economy was so fucking good under Biden. You guys don't understand this. I used to work in tech, right? I'm not a huge tech bro. I'm more of a nerd, but I used to work in tech, and you guys would be fucking, like, your mind would be fucking blown how many $100,000 a year plus jobs popped up under Biden. And then when those people go out and spend money, yeah, there's some like trickle down effects that, who knows, maybe that's a political conversation. It's a priority for some people, but the economy was so good. She was dumb as a box of rocks. I think that's just disrespectful and bad faith. No offense. Why are you talking about the past? I always talk about the past. Don't apologize. Okay, Grace. You number one. Jessica Chasen says hello to you as well. Trash channel. TDS. Yeah, there is definitely some TDS. I keep getting phone calls. Can you guys hear me okay? You guys hear me? Groceries up 4x. Yeah, the price of fucking eggs. I am so sick of that goddamn conversation. I'm not a rich man. I eat beans out of a can tonight. And yeah, I'm not a rich man. I know my limitations, but And I appreciate that, when families go to the store and it's one of those things that psychologically seems so important to us. And yet at the same time, it's like, well, how are we as a country, how are we as leaders in our community, are we finding the people that can adapt to this change? Are we finding people that can understand sort of the nature of like changes in prices, whether it's inflation or something else? Are we being inspiring? Are we carrying an attitude that helps people to actually solution around these problems? Are we coming up with solutions that fit and make sense to people right now? The price of eggs, man. Sharon B says, it's not just eggs. All right, at me, right? Okay, so at me, it's good. So it's not just eggs. A lot of things are not available anymore. And what does cost? And it costs $2 to $3 more. And that's a lot, right? That's a lot. When your typical shopping cart is 40 different items, and you're seeing everything is between 25 cents and $3 more expensive. Every single thing in that cart, 25 cents to $3 more expensive. And for people that are counting their hours on the clock, or for people who were told 10 years ago, 20 years ago, they need $1 million to retire. And now they're seeing that just staying alive with food is the thing that is hurting them. That's hurting them. That's a painful change, right? That's a painful change. Yeah. And so that's what it is, right? I don't know. So that's what it is, right? Have people in the household adapt to it. I'm not trying to red pill y'all. I'm not trying to black pill y'all. But, dad or someone else in the household, learn to eat fucking rice. Learn to eat fucking rice and beans, right? Have you ever sauteed, fried up some gizzards? I'm a vegan, but whatever, eat some fucking gizzards. What do you think? There's been both Republicans and Democrats in our country for nearly 50 years who have been talking about how we take care of older people in our country, how we take care of people with disabilities in our country, how we make the most out of an education, starting from pre-K all the way through producing some of the smartest minds on planet Earth, the smartest minds in the history of the Earth. You can't argue with that, right? And so to see that when we're talking about inflation and grocery prices, this thing is now in front of us. It's present. It's in our face. And it's the same bullshit we heard out of fucking Steve Bannon, right? Pardon my French. How many people here watched Joe Rogan parade around with these conspiracy theory lunatics because it was fun or funny? Because he called it educational. And yet at the same time, and I'm not saying I'm not going to be stuck in the past, right? But when we ask, does this actually push forward a problem that can be a priority? And maybe it is the price of fucking eggs, right? Maybe it is. What's up, Goose? Maybe it is the price of eggs. But that's not the only big block that we have, right? It's not the only big block. We've got there's big oil, there's small oil. We've got American auto manufacturers that are providing jobs that are always struggling to keep up with global competition. All kinds of stuff. Duck eggs, nah, dude. That's crossed the line. That's crossed my line. Quantum Quota Beach says, immigration. I don't know if that's what you're talking about. Kidnapping isn't a priority. You can clarify me if I got that one wrong. Yeah, absolutely. I was watching. There's an old comedy bit, a funny one, called GOP Jesus. And I apologize to. I'm a former Catholic, but to my Christian friends in chat, to anyone who's religious, God bless you. Jimmy Kimmel, as well as there's a couple guys on YouTube who did GOP Jesus, who adapted. And one of the GOP Jesus lines is all children are gifts of God. Now get this one to the detention center. Yeah, that stuff's crazy. That's where I was talking about. I got a challenge for those people. I was talking about intersectionality a little bit. I was also talking about traditional conservatism and liberalism. How do the two go together? Why does it seem that the worst forms of injustices never get their fair shake, their fair day in court? It's so difficult, right? Like, when I think of having a dialogue or something, I don't think of Selena Gomez and Julio Cesar Chavez. Maybe this is like asking like for an unrealistic standard, right? Like, was Chuck Norris? He is the white man's hero. Chuck Norris is the epitome of the white man's hope. Like, maybe it is, but it's like, yeah, I don't know. Somebody do something. I don't think I'm supposed to do that. Let's see. Someone says the phrase TDS is for those too stupid to debate with someone with differing opinions. Yeah. And just like a friendly reminder too, yeah, we're trying to be respectful of people. Look, if you're a MAGA person and you're saying TDS in chat, or if you are a liberal and you're bombarding people with information, like, that's just awesome for me personally. So no offense, it's kind of gnar, right? Our last live stream, you guys send over 1,900 messages. So I'm not saying that it's not sick, but it is kind of sick. And yeah, it's also important to remember the space between people is just the space between people, No offense, dude. But like, when I used to shred the gnar a lot in debates and like politics and stuff like that, I'd have to sometimes take a step back and ask, did I shred the gnar too hard? Maybe Steve Bannon just shredded the gnar way too hard. Maybe it was too gnar, man. Nah, dude. But could you imagine, though, like, if the Democrats and MAGA got together and like formed a political party, that would be like putting sushi on pizza, dude. No one ever talks about stuff like that, but that's also why I'm into politics, because like, you need an outside belief. No offense, man. No offense, man. Nah. Ha 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 ha. Har 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 har. Hey, we got Jeff Epstein in the chat. Rest in peace, friend. I'm just guessing the user and PFP with Jeffrey Epstein in there is the one who confiscated Diddy's baby oil. Habbin' Babbin', aka Project. You got to trim the beard. Maybe one day. Right now, I'm too. I don't know. I'm too white pilled, black pilled, blue pilled. I'm very blue pill. I'm very normie, right? So to me, I just like, if I look at the beard and I say, oh, I don't want to shave a beard, I'm comfortable with it. That's cool. I got when my hair was really long, when my daughter was a kid, she was really little at that time. But one time I did get a haircut and trimmed my beard, and she got scared when she saw me, because our humans' eyes open up when they're taking in information and stuff like that. Both sides, right? Both sides. So like, don't purposefully do it, but she saw me. Whoa, I thought that was funny as hell. I thought it was funny. It was hilarious at the time. Staying off the grid says just oil up. WAP says, what difference does it make if I am a manga person? If you're a manga person, that's awesome. That's cool. I don't personally know that much about anime. I know it's very popular. I know there's lots of stuff. One of my buddies his brother did sketching and stuff for comic books. He was the guy that did the shading. So he, when we got older, and like, when you're old, sometimes you just have like, even if you're not rich, you can be broke as hell, but you have like $600 of disposable income. Like, there's no rules, right? And so like, I went over to his house one time. He had this giant fucking like shading table. It was like electronic and stuff too. So, it had like spaces and pop-ups for like paper and stuff, but then he popped it up and like an LED screen popped up and he had all these pens and shit for it. It was crazy. Totally crazy stuff. But But yeah, if you're a manga person, that there's a story. I was actually gonna write a comic book with him. This was back when I was doing finance. We were super fucking bored working at a call center, and I was gonna write. I'm a better writer now. I'm actually am. Maybe one time we can talk about writing, or I can do like a PC live stream. We can do some like live writing workshop sort of studio. We could write something together. I'll get some people up on stage or whatever. Kind of talk to chat. That would be fun. But back then, I knew how to write because I went to college, but I wasn't a very good writer. You can go to college and still be really fucking bad at a lot of stuff. That's the moral of that story. If you're talking about being MAGA, it does not matter. Just all that stuff. Daryl, good to see you. Chris, good to see you. During World War II, Franklin D. Roosevelt handed over the keys to the Zionist elite class. Yeah, that's possible. That's possible. That would have been starting round about 1939. Round about 1939. So at that point, what I take it you mean by the Zionist class would have been a small subset of Jewish intelligentsia living in diaspora. So you have Russian and strict communist. You have some religious and you have some secular versions of Zionism, which eventually emerged during that time period. And yeah, who knows? Maybe saying like Francis Fukuyama and the end of history is like saying Zionism. Maybe it's not. Zhang Gao, all that stuff. Why hasn't President convicted R-word released the Epstein files yet? Al Bundy, I don't know. I wouldn't imagine if you are Donald Trump, even though I can't stand the man, I wouldn't imagine he's gotten a brief on his desk that includes the Epstein files. If I was looking at Donald Trump's itinerary for a day, a week, a month, I don't know. Maybe he's a great manager, right? He's a great manager. I don't know. I don't think he's very transparent. So maybe we have in one small way, we share the same concern that President POTUS Donald Trump, who is also the same person who stole from cancer kids in New York, and has a large multiple civil and defamation cases, I think, about sexual assault. So same person. I don't think he's transparent. So if he's not transparent, he's not going to release whatever the Epstein files are or could be. Chansley Pearson, good to see you. Pub Beard. Yeah, this is a public resource. If you guys like a little game theory, here's a wild. I don't know if you guys have heard of the tragedy of the commons, but it's this idea that, okay, so if I take something like the Great Lakes or the big lithium pools in frickin', let's just say we're having a very broad discussion about lakes of lithium in California or national parks that keep the air clean, help the hydrology, the water flow under our feet, right? Under our feet and into our cup, that kind of stuff. Yeah, the tragedy of the commons says that like I can actually think about a Tesla dealership. I can think about the people that would go out and do this stuff, and or I can think about like taking my family on vacation or hearing a really bad story if we don't take care of this stuff. And it doesn't matter, Republican, Democrat, you're kind of a fucking idiot if you don't just say like a national park or a forest is like it's doing something. No offense. I ain't trying to say nothing by it, but yeah. Get out of here, though. Get out of my chat. No. Anyways, so the tragedy of the commons says that like I can say something is worth 100 units of success or whatever it is, but for 1,000 people to take care of it, it appears that they don't even get their proportional value back, or they do get their proportional value back, but it takes them more time, so nobody takes care of it, right? This is like a game theoretic approach to these problems where you say, well, this is worth 100. If I've got 100 people, they each have to put in 1 unit of effort, and then we get to that 100. Yay, good job, everyone. But as it turns out, people don't put in that 1, they'll put in less, or they won't put in anything, and it actually gets worse, right? And so the tragedy of the commons says, well, why is it the case that when we have a collective shared good, we ever take care of it? And you can see that as, I would encourage you to see that as just okay, well, technically all this is a grid on a table. It's not about communism. It's not about capitalism. It's not about anything. So, buck up, go ahead, sketch it out, go look up game theory games on Wikipedia. Go do something like that. It's not about anything, but but maybe it is. Maybe it is about, maybe we have to take this sort of utility information. We have to talk about comparative advantages, or we have to talk about the equal sum or the Pareto, the optimal solutions in these cases. We have to talk about how those cases work through each other. The best in the world to have ever done it all have done that as well, by the way, if you want to feel cool. So game theory, all that stuff. Oy vey, my fellow Jew. No, I'm a goy. You will believe me, right? Afsel, I'm a goy. I'm honest. My hand to God. No, it's funny. Once we get like 40 people in the chat, and by the way, do feel free to hit like, hit subscribe. But yeah, by the time, as it always is, when we hit like 40 people in chat, there's always some nice people saying nice things, trying to connect. It's always at the beginning of the chat that, you get the prefix, instead of, are you Jewish, or, was your mother or father a Jew? What did your mother learn from your father? You always get, well, you are one of the Jews. You are the Jew. It's just very direct. I'm not Jewish, so. Sam, good to see you. Hey, Reddit beard, turn your head 90 degrees to the right. I want to see how he or she. Hey, watch that stuff out. I gotta. We don't have any of our mods here tonight that I've seen. But yeah, we talked about that. It was fun. It was funny. It was cool. If you're not a normie, cool. If you are a normie, then you know that it's against the rules and stuff like that. And it's going to be against the rules more. So let's just cut some of that stuff out so everyone can feel included. Everyone can feel included, right? I don't think you would think, like, if your little brother was getting, like, let's just imagine if there was an 18-year-old or something, who's hopefully, if you're hanging out with us or whatever, who knows, whatever. You have a right to just talk about whatever everyone else is talking about too. And that's it. How many genders are there, says Ronnie? Good question. Well, in Iowa, there are officially 2 genders, and they're the same as sex. That is what was just decided. And there's Iowa or Idaho. Took out all of that language. There are, how many genders are there? I don't know. I feel like you're asking about biological sex. There's 2 very discrete biological sexes. Very discrete. And in terms of gender, I don't know. Doesn't matter to me that much. I don't give a fuck. That's that's not how I show support to the LGBTQ plus community. Yeah, I got, whatever. Conversation on Reddit, conversation on Discord, conversations on YouTube. I don't give a shit. Like, it's cool. I mean, like, yeah, let's whatever. Let's have a conversation. I'm not going to scheme a grand futurist vision yet. But I'm not going to do that yet. But on the other side of it, yeah, XY chromosome does not talk about something like desire or willingness to wear makeup or be a homemaker, right? Or an XX chromosome doesn't talk about that. An XX and XY chromosome going down a layer talks about amino acids and chemistry and physics, right? That's all you get when you go down. That's all you get when you go down. And when you go up, you get something that also doesn't necessarily have to, or even isn't sufficient to include any of the other stuff. So that is a scientific answer that gender is a constructed concept. I think it's really useful to say there's men and women. I think it's really useful to say, well, yeah, there's men and women, and now, that's not a complete description since we're playing that game, since we're doing that thing. I bet Trump can boost China to world superpower before the term is up. I bet Trump can boost China to the world super. Maybe. Yeah. I used to ride bikes a bunch. So I was just watching. There was just a very large Chinese cycling show. Lots of cool consumer technology, and durables or non-durables or whatever it is. So some dumb beats. Good question. Good comment. I think China's using about as much energy as the United States here, so there's more foundational problems to manage and to deal with or something. But yeah. Yep. As a commie, I'm a big fan of Trump. I'm not a commie. I love John Rawls. I love John Locke. I do have the closest I get to communism is Jean-Jacques Rousseau, one of my favorite philosophers of all time. No offense, bro. No, man. Jean-Jacques Rousseau does a lot of cool stuff. Sorry if I'm missing you guys. You guys are chatting up a storm. Feel free to like and subscribe or whatever, or do not. Curly Heart, good to see you. Do you like Lego Batman, the video game? Lego Batman, what's up? You're reading my mind. No, I've never done Legos because I didn't have the patience for it. I would build sick Lincoln log forts when I was a kid. Pillow forts, Lincoln logs. But yeah, I was actually just Googling Batman Beyond yesterday, or searching on YouTube. I found this is really bad. I shouldn't be saying this on YouTube, but I found a rip online of the old Batman Beyond series. I think I rewatched the first season. I got through most of the first season again as a 35-year-old adult male. But that stuff's funny as hell. Go preach the gospel. My brothers and sisters in Christ. What are we doing right now? What's the priority? That's what I want. I don't want the street preacher. I want the person too busy serving the poor to talk about the Lord. What type of discussion was one having? As a former Catholic, I think the most compelling and only true virtue of any holy book is the ability to actually carry out and see God's will on earth, and that is social justice. I am an atheist, though. And so social justice remains. Now, did I say something to convince you that I think it's offensive to say that the gospel is accurate? It's the most perfect story of the most perfect human life because it is also a life of the divine? I did not say anything. I said that the one person who's actually preaching the gospel is the one too busy to do so. And that is the conversation that is for the Lord's ear, for the Lord's mouth, for he speaks to the poor. He speaks to the poor despite them being poor. Now, who amongst us will say the same? Amen. Yeah, God bless you. It's whatever day it is today. Bless y'all. Now you gotta, because I'm an atheist or something, no offense, but y'all, we got a week to do something good in the world. That's where we got to. Yeah, but God bless those serving the poor, and as long as people are being respectful, I'm not going to do or respond to apologetics. It doesn't often come up in topics that I talk about, but I'm happy to talk about religion and apologetics. I guess not really, but yeah, whatever. Personally, I don't have a religion, says Curly Heart. I'm not an atheist, though Let me read all of this. Curly Heart left a great comment. Personally, I don't have a religion. I'm not atheist, though, either. If there is a God, cool. If there isn't a God, that's cool too. That's a complex statement. Yeah. Basic instinct before leaving Earth attached to the Bible. Or that was going to be a Jesus fish. I don't know. Rich Cohen, what about the growth of anti-Semitism? That's a cool question. I can help answer that question. It's difficult to understand why we're seeing not just anti-Semitism, but we're seemingly seeing anti-Semitism nested in other movements. Right? It seems like in Europe, the nationalist movement has been able to go outside of itself and find these really complex ideas like, well, who uses the energy in Europe? Right? That's such a great question. Who uses energy in Europe? Actually, are the notions that you're bringing into that question, your eyes, your ears, when you ask who uses the energy in Europe, did I ask the right way? Was I considering the actual political implications? Like, how far do we have to go before somebody can tell us something intelligible about that same question? And so when people talk about anti-Semitism, I think the reciprocal of people bringing in questions about, well, what do the national police do? Who uses energy? How much does a house cost? How do we determine if we're getting a fair deal on this stuff? What should our resources and time be going to? I think the reciprocal of that is like, well, when you actually know this, right? When you know that in the United States, there's big problems, big changes, there's been all these great accomplishments that have taken themselves to the extreme, like just for sake of conversation, this is true. What I would say is, the rise of anti-Semitism is about, not confusion, but it's about actual confusion that can't be levied on a single person. It can't be levied on a single person, and it's difficult to operationalize around, right? I don't want to, like, when it comes to something like racism, I'm happy to say, like, well, you guys are all a spreadsheet, you're all a statistic, everybody just left, so okay. Now it's everybody who didn't think I was a goy. Now it's just yeah. There's 3 Palestinians and 17 Jews left in the comment section now. No, I don't want to say somebody. If this makes sense, like, who's this population? I never want to say that somebody is like a statistic. But when it comes to something like racism, when it comes time that it's like it makes too much sense for politics to do something, it's like, okay, let's talk about it then. Yeah, Al Bundy, I agree. Israel helps make America a superpower. Israel helped West and spread Judeo-Christian values. How are we so ungrateful at this time of our? Yeah, maybe. I don't know if we totally agree on that question. I don't know. I need to get more educated. I always reference the long series of debates between William James and John Dewey at the turn of the 20th century. And so in the United States at that time, you had already had American academic will sort of pushing outside of this theocentric sort of notion. And when you consider the question or the debate in terms of, well, okay, so what would the United States have to do geopolitically in the next century? I don't think it's accidental that Francis Fukuyama would say, well, yeah, you have Roman Catholics reaffirming that Catholicism lives everywhere in the United States, and forms of Christianity can work around it. They'll figure it out eventually. And then you also have Francis Fukuyama saying, well, the United States has also had the biggest swinging liberal dong on planet Earth since this time, and it was going to. U.S. Apologetics, baby. Happy July 5th. Happy July 5th to everybody. Happy July 5th. Good to see everybody. If you're just joining, feel free to hit the like, hit the subscribe. Today, the title of the video that we have, we've just been chatting, hanging out. I brought up Trump's big, beautiful bill, feminist debates. Some people have been talking about Israel, Gaza, Palestine. And yeah, whatever else, y'all. He has ordained and blessed us with. Are Native Americans expected to be thankful to Israel for that? Affirmative, good to see you. Good to see you. Yo. Ice cold. Faraz, good to see you. Is that an Iranian heart? Yeah, so an Iranian cyber group has hacked Trump's emails, which I thought was very funny. The emails of Trump's aides. Obviously, my two main beefs as an American with Iran right now is like, the whole nuclear program thing. Very sketchy. I understand it. I do. It's still very sketchy. And then the other one is just human rights and stuff. Women's rights in Iran. I understand there's parallels and it's complex and stuff like that. But I did think it was personally. I thought that's very funny to me. That obviously, like if someone was in the security community and you see the executive office and people, 1 degree, like no degrees of separation to the president, have their data stolen, they're not going to see that as funny. I thought that was funny. Have you guys heard about this? 100 gigabytes of emails. That's a lot of communication. That is a lot of text out of the White House. That's funny as shit, dude. Yeah, so this was 3 or 4 days ago. What was the... Yeah, Iran did this, if I'm not mistaken, probably like Iranian special forces, probably like the same thing as, I'm guessing these aren't like, we are independent freedom fighters adjacent to the regime, but not the regime. Call us Richard. They're called Richard, are the people who fucking hacked the White House. I think they did it 2 or 3 years ago, and this time they stole 100 gigs of data from Trump. It's funny. Everybody agreed it was funny. You got your answer, Iran. China said, let's go party, bro. Cybersecurity is terrifying, though. You guys want to know about this shit a little bit? So if you are... Okay, so if you're talking about like large governments, large corporations, there are 5 cyber attacks every second. Not that crazy. When you start expanding out to like actual cyber attacks, it's about 1,100 every second in the world. 1,100 every second, or 100, I think. Whatever, I forgot that one. But when you just count actual malware or targeted cyber attacks, not accidental stuff, there are 190,000 cyber attacks every second. Every second, it is persistent. So. The sort of like security studies, like that sort of weird bend, like if you're trying to militarize what this is and was, is it appears on the outside that there's just a large bubble of persistent, constant attacks. And that it's like, yeah, if you're a nation state, or if you have a poor class of people, it's just the case that everybody is throwing shit at each other literally every second of every day, hundreds of thousands of times. And probably seriously, we're talking on a daily, weekly basis, right? Like, we didn't think it would get through. No, we didn't think so. But yeah, when you talk about like I don't know, not like don't feel safe or whatever, but like cyber attacks that can range from targeting equipment, right? The Internet of Things, or just even if you're not on the Internet of Things, if you're not like actually on a network or something, you probably still have a computer inside of you. Those things can all be targeted by cyber attacks. You have corporations in government, ranging from like large servers and like corporate IP that has customer data and stuff like that, to just like Tom in accounting, Tom and Susie in accounting's their PC is you can hack that. Yeah, and then like heavy, super serious military stuff, right? If any country has a drone or a helicopter, and not just civilian helicopters, but like a military plane, helicopter, drone, signals information, any sort of government repositories of information, all of that stuff is also subject to cyber attacks, right? That stuff's crazy. Who even knows what's going on? Persecute, persecute, persecute. Yeah, and good to see everybody. Thanks for joining. I would like to drink with you one evening. Cleopatrin, to the first question, I am not answering. To the second question, yeah, thank you for saying I look interesting. Yeah, come hang out. Come hang out. It's cool. Feel free to like and subscribe. Yeah, we love chatting. We love having interesting conversations. Purple turtle, I don't know if that was for me. That would be a cero. Cero, 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 cero. Pablo is a post 1965 Ellis Islander. Yes, Pablo. When it's illegal, it only benefits the Democrats. Whoa. Yeah, I don't know. Do you guys have any opinions on feminism? You guys have any opinions on feminism? Hold on, I'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Stay there, guys. Stay there, okay? I promise, I will be right back. I will be right back. And there we are. There we are, folks. Yes. There we are. Yeah, so cyber is interesting. On the one hand, if there is persistent and consistent, like you can even think of like the scope of creating a response to cyber attacks if you're in the government, because at the end of the day, like what you want, you would want a director of the CIA or the Pakistani ISI or the Russian KGB or MI6. And you would want cyber divisions in any, that sit outside in like the formal military. You would want the leaders to say like, well, look, it's Thursday. We got attacked. Maybe it was a bad day. We got attacked 10 times or 10,000 times, whatever it was. But maybe when we rolled the tape backs, there were 10 really bad cyber attacks, 10 really bad ones. You would want people to say that like, look, well, even on a bad day, these were 10 attacks that we didn't know about before, or we knew about 98% of them. So we're going to learn something. And so this is generally what we had already accepted to be sort of the playing ground for cyber capabilities. We think these are bad actors. We think these are bad actors, and we're willing to respond in due time. We're willing to respond immediately or in due time. We're not going to change our perspective if there's nothing that changed for our perspective. So, you got to have that, but you can think of also just the logistical and analytic problem, in terms of reporting on this stuff. If you are the White House who just got hacked by Iran, which is super funny, I will say that. I'll give you guys that it's very funny. 100 gigabytes of email gone, or not gone. I think I don't think it's gone, right? But if you have 100,000 threats that you catalog a day or something, just for example, how do you actually get to a number of well, these are serious actors that are investing in their their cyber capabilities, and since we've known about, it's been 100,000 for the last 20 years, or whatever, and so now we can actually see that these are construed as offensive. They're escalations or something like that. Just the challenge of sifting through all that data, I can't imagine personally. I would imagine the NSA has some role in that, because you have to have I would imagine the NSA has lots of places where threats either go through or originate. I don't know if you guys have heard the term threat ontology before. Cyber threat ontology. And this isn't too philosophical. But it's threat ontology talks about sort of both the circumstances as well as almost like the trends. What's the sort of nature, what's the bottom line, brass tacks? What's the bottom line about a cyber attack? How did that happen? How could that have happened? Do you know something? Do you not know something? And yeah, so it's interesting, because when you look at 190,000 either malware or other type of offensive cyber threat every second on planet Earth, 190,000, people might know that if it's 2007, that email, malicious links in email is the new thing, and what's going around on the black market right now, and what young programmers are able to do. They're a little more skilled than they were 5 years ago, as they're able to avoid spam detection. They're also able to deliver software. They're able to deliver some form of code, through a web page that might look real. And so you have, multiple angles of attack, kind of going into this one little simple trick, right? You write a text email, you have a link on the bottom. It's not like the I love you virus, which if you're a young person, you should know the story of the I love you virus. It's less funny. It's less funny than Trump's White House getting hacked. Also, what's up to everybody in chat? If you guys want, feel free to like and subscribe, all that kind of stuff. I think I'm supposed to say that. But yeah. So, you have a very different type of ontology when you're talking about, from my very stupid bullshit opinion or whatever. But when you talk about ontology in terms of who cyber actors are, what happens if you get malicious code in your computer? Do they steal emails? Do they, is this a ransomware attack? Is this something like that? Is this something where you actually have someone executing code on, they access your terminal and they're actually, cat typing on keyboard, whatever it is. It's an actual keyboard warrior ripping data out of your PC. And then maybe it's gone, who knows? Maybe they calculate, they can get, 50 cents or, 25 cents for every line of like data they steal. Somehow it's bad, and then it just goes somewhere else, right? That seems really different from, you have offensive state actors, or you have actors adjacent to the state, sort of mimicking, looking at sort of what a lot of these cyber crimes sort of look at. And yeah, that type, because if we're talking about this Iranian Richard, rich, my buddy Dick from Iran, Richard started a hacker. They call themselves a cartel, a syndicate. I say they're a commune. They share an apartment. They have a smart car. One guy goes to the store on Monday. He buys everything for the whole house. They can code all night. But yeah, you could imagine that, if this is something that turns out to be authentically associated to high-ranking members of the IRGC, it turns out to be something that the Iranian regime knew about. You would imagine that there's more signaled than like the old, the OG attack on Natanz like a decade ago now, right? Israel and the US didn't say that much when they first hacked the nuclear sites. They just said, well, we're going to fuck all your shit up. The two things we're going to say is we're going to break everything you have. You're going to watch it and you're not going to know why. You're not going to know how to fix it. I don't think that you have enough computer programmers working with your nuclear scientists. And it turns out I'm going to be right? Really rough stuff. But they also said that, like, look, this thing's fine. Everybody's going to know about it. Not everybody's going to put together the pieces about what it's going to do or who it's for. It's only going to be the person that who it's for can know about it. At one point there were 500, I think more than 500 million devices infected with Stuxnet. And it only was malicious on maybe 15 computers in the world. Crazy stuff. And so in terms of the ontology of this attack, it's crazy because the United States was saying, well, you guys can't control, they said, we're going to fuck your shit up first. So understand what we meant by this. I'm going to show out till I pass out. They also said, we're one of the things we want to talk about, and we don't want it to just be fake. My normie interpretation is that, we don't believe Iran can sustain a high enrichment process and infrastructure. We don't think that, we're opposed to this for many reasons, right? We're opposed to this for many reasons. If you don't understand the totality of what we mean by you can't maintain this, then, we're just going to keep fucking your shit up. We're going to keep breaking your shit. We're going to keep breaking your shit, right? Good guy US all the time, right? Super nuanced diplomacy, Barack Obama nuclear deal. Guys, let's shake hands, and this is bullshit, and let's go on to the next thing, right? Why can't we talk like this, like grown-ups? But yeah, the ontology, when I think of ontology for an attack like this, you have a state actor with multiple goals who don't care about public communication at all. They want you to make it into a documentary. They want the Vice News special. They want these mysterious experts from the community stepping up and becoming national figures. They want it to be brought to light, this one aspect of this horrible story that Iran is an incompetent state, that the regime is weak, that they could do nothing, right? All they could do is put up soundproofing on their walls, and at the end of the day, Israeli and US code still got in there. Israeli and US code, wherever you look, it doesn't matter if you hire 10 cybersecurity experts and 10 nuclear scientists, then we're going to have instead of hiring 100 or instead of hiring one, then we're going to still have, one agent, and that's enough for us to severely degrade whatever you're working on. Really bad poor messaging, right? Poor messaging. Really, is this the message that you wanted to convey in the first place? Maybe it's fine. Maybe it's not good, right? It sucks. It sucks. Yeah, so that type of state ontology is really different. When you think of like a Richard in Iran hacking the White House, stealing 100 gigs of Trump's aides' data, all these emails and all this other stuff, and now you have to update. Now you have to completely debrief all this information in a way that normally you don't. You probably are set up to do that, but normally you don't. That's fucking funny. Yeah, somebody should ask Trump, like, hey, are Jimmy, Timmy, Susie, Tommy, are they still in the basement? They're still working on the thing, right? They're still making sure America's safe again. Make America safe again, right? Make sure tea and crumpets don't get interrupted, eh? How about that? How about them apples? No, but I would like to think that, when we're talking about what's clearly and obviously one-sided diplomacy, you have this one narrative that is complete bullshit, that in the same way the United States is ready for energy modernization and we're able to promote safe competition and liberal democracy in the West. In the same way that this is true, it's true that Iran has has a dog in a fight, right? That's complete fucking bullshit, and you know it's bullshit. But what isn't bullshit is that if you can just get past that and you can say, well, yeah, there are larger conversations about security that we should be able to have. We've been working on a lot. Well, then you have hackers in the White House that Beijing probably knows about. You have stuff moving across through the Silk Road that the United States can be talked to in this certain way. And when you get to those sort of messages and you have nothing else in that bag, and even when you have something in that bag, that's when like the offensive stuff starts. Hey, Matt, good to see you. And everybody's a bunch of liars and you're being controlled by China, Germany. Jerusalem, Germany actually has a time machine called the Bell. Hey, good to see you, bro. Good to see you, bro, person, whatever. Yeah, it would be cool if we had a bell. If you could go back to the 1950s and 1960s in the US, I bet the US would go back in time. We had, what are they called? Bell West. We had an old telecom company that connected telecommunications for 250 million Americans. Ended up getting bought by the government and going out of business. Yeah, got bailed out. It was a bailout. It's a big shitty situation. It was a horrible situation, is what everyone would say. Everyone would say, and we didn't internalize that this was, Sergey Brin and absolute genius people, some of the smartest people in the world, who figured out how really simple, tiny pieces of code could be expanded into a new way to share information. That's called Google. That is the modern computing infrastructure that we have. Nikola Tesla. Eat a Tide Pod, bro. Yeah, if you guys want to like and subscribe, I am doing, by the way, I was working out with laundry detergent earlier. I'm going to start doing a couple times a week, daytime, nighttime fitness streams. Try and do some more audience engagement and stuff like that, too. I've just been bullshitting. Thomas Stoughton says, do a kickflip, bro. I don't know how to do a kickflip. Thomas Stoughton, you are valued and respected. And that's why you earn respect and get respect. All that stuff. I don't know what you're talking about, Al Bundy-Oz. I don't know if that was for me. Look at Elon and Doge. Yeah, who knows? Elon Musk is out in left field. Is Elon an irrational person doing irrational things? I don't know. I just like being brutally honest. I don't see how I could support Elon Musk in any of his projects after seemingly committing to such an irrational person with so little regard for the human condition. Yeah. So little regard for the human condition. Yeah, really bad stuff. Really bad stuff. You think Elon sold our data? Yeah. I mean, Twitter, I would hope that any company like Twitter or X is investing hundreds of millions each year into their algorithms. And I would just expect that advertisers have access to that data, or advertisers have access to various levels of interfaces, various types of interfaces, or one simplified version, however that works. Yeah, Elon wouldn't be a good business owner, a capitalist, if that wasn't true. If it was false. Yeah, why not, right? If you can deliver a piece of malware, if you can deliver a piece of someone saying your digital identity is being sold all the time, yeah. If you can buy a piece of malware for $5,000 or whatever, $1,000, and you can buy 10 of them, or you can buy 15 different ones, and you can deliver each 10,000 times a day or 100,000 times a day, however many times a day you can try it. You know, what stops that? What stops that? Or why is that even like the most attractive way to go in the first place? Like, I understand, but Elon Musk is an installed psyop. Yeah, that's a good usage of psyop. That is a correct usage of psyop. Yeah, I was just thinking about this on my run today. Hamid Karzai, was he the Iraqi president or Afghanistan president? Shit, I should have probably known that. Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. But yeah, when you had these sort of emerged, yeah, I shouldn't look like a fisherman, Jessica. No offense. I would trust you to catch a decent sized fish for dinner. Yeah. Oh yeah, baby. I used to be a chunky boy about my fish. I used to love it. One of my favorite restaurants was called Roy's. Really like a little like higher end, a little expensive. I don't mean like expensive, but it wasn't cheap, right? You could spend $40 on food and then another 40 on drinks. You could have an $80 seat, right? That's how a lot of the high end restaurants think about it. Is they figuring out how many seats they can book per night, and then what's the average ticket per seat. And you know what you can expect by a party of 6, a party of 10, all this other stuff. There's a way to be smart about some of that. Do I have anger issues? No, I don't. Afghan president. Yeah. So this was crazy. In Afghanistan, as well as Iraq, one of the things that like the US had to say was that like, and we did the same exact thing in Vietnam. This is like how dumb American warfare is, especially these large, people would say imperial efforts. And that, it's a large invading force. There's no plan to keep these places indefinitely. But it is. It's an imperial force isn't, what it is, which is like something that borders on genocide sometimes, and then therefore that's what it is. But in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and in Vietnam, one of the things that like U.S. leaders had to have done is you would go in, and once you took back a capital city or you had a government, you said, hey, listen up, motherfucker. I'm a frog man, and the thing I'm going to tell you is you better fucking remember, don't listen to the haters. This is your fucking country, right? If you're in Vietnam, this is, you're in Vietnam. Do you understand what I mean when I say that? Where are we right now? That's your fucking country. If you're in fucking Iraq or Afghanistan, I don't give a shit. What's Istanbul? That's not your country. If you're in Iraq or Afghanistan, that's your fucking country. They try to tell you different, you come tell me, right? We'll send out a quick reaction team. We'll go talk to them. It's your fucking country. And so this is kind of cool, right? Because it's kind of sick, like in the Hollywood version of life carrying on, where there having to be information about normal society over these large 20-year periods of time. You have leaders that are maintaining normal day life. But what also comes with this is that, like, you have the other guy who's not the frogman, right? Who's saying like, well, how are things going? Can you tell me how things are going right now? And then, it's another way of asking, like, what did you fuck up? What did you mess up? What did you not know about or not have control of? And the reason this is true is because when you have ambiguity, you have both the optionality that exists is for both disaster as well as opportunity. Huge opportunities, huge things to go wrong. And so, when you look at like the actual recovery periods and why is it the case that Vietnam took longer than Korea to like modernize and industrialize? Why is it the case that like you had international people cheering on that like Iraq was having like, oh, we're having talks about like wages and taxes and stuff like that. We're wherever you go, you're going to roll some stuff back, but we're seeing like some conversations about a society. It's very silly, but it's because like when you invade a place, you don't want you want to see a leader that you understand, but you don't want like an oligarchy that you don't know about rising up. And so when you have people making money that you can depend on, you have people that are making money that other people can depend on as well. King shit. Greasy Jesus, good to see you, Omne. Yeah, baby, we popping ohms. Bob says Europe can suck it. Cool. It's Miss Amy Love from a more than 11th generation American. This bill is a big bogus betrayal. Thank you. Yeah. Let me know what you think. The healthcare defending will bring about a single payer once and for all. Yeah, I think it's going to cost people small bits. My own opinion is I think it's going to cost. I was talking about the economics. Sorry if I'm not that empathetic towards a lot of people, but I mean, I don't know if that's actually true, but maybe it is completely true. But like, I think it's going to cost a lot of people a small bit of their humanity. I think the economists are right that there's no real long-term growth mechanism that pays it backwards. And so I think when you look at the costs ballooning in terms of the sort of social safety net being taken away, and we don't see an actual mechanism where this recovers anywhere else in society, I think it's a series of unfortunate events, which strategically are about a series of unfortunate events that happen if the U.S. economy isn't in control of itself, and a series of unfortunate sort of outcomes, just in terms of people. You get into debt eventually, and that's just what happens. You get into debt, you get into all kinds of. There's people that are going to get into debt. There's people that are going to get unemployed, and it takes them longer to recover. I think we're going to see recessionary economics, but it looks like healthcare for It's Miss Amy, an 11th generation American, is saying that all healthcare workers that will lose their jobs when we nurses already took the brunt of things during COVID. Nurses, home health assistants, home health care, those are some of the things that like categorically I know about personally. It sounds like, in terms of Amy sounds like she's someone who would have seen how healthcare systems are able to do more sometimes, and then maybe in the macro condition, it appears lets down patients, lets down healthcare workers themselves. They burn people out. When you don't have a healthy economy, everything gets harder, and that impacts everybody that's part of that equation. That's the way I understand that. And I also understand this is, under Biden, one of the, very specifically, and I'll just speak generally because it's something I know a little bit about. Under Biden, there were visas available. There were, work stay programs available for people that wanted to do, home healthcare jobs or, skilled nursing and stuff like this. There are ways that we were trying to fill those gaps. And so we've also shifted the narrative into blaming immigrants instead of understanding sort of the role that, skilled professionals anywhere in the world can play in 2025. To me, the thing that we should be taking away from that, the way that we should be taking away from that is that, like, look, there's really only a handful of super impactful stories that ever matter at any given time. And when we when we take too much time to listen to someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, no offense, when we take too much time to let Josh Hawley waste 15 minutes of our life gish galloping and gallivanting on Fox News, there's nothing actually that funny about that. You're actually talking about someone's mom and dad who needed a voice at that time, right? Maybe that is your own mom and dad that needed a voice at that time. How do you know? How would you know? How would you know? 35 years in nursing for Miss Amy, and for the at Kaiser Permanente, the last 17 years as a nurse doing triage, and walk outdoor for people in their cars. It was all just survival. Cool. Yeah, that sounds like a great career. That sounds like a great career. Yeah, where is the turnaround point? Where's the turnaround point? You know, if we have if you guys think of people like Piers Morgan, Don Lemon, you think about people like Michelle Obama still has a voice, right? You think that the only place people want to have a conversation isn't Fox News, right? Maybe it is. If I'm wrong, tell me. If you're not on board with hearing about healthcare, you're not on board with hearing about why it matters that we set priorities or have that conversation about priorities. We talk about what we're talking about, like adults, like men, like whoever. Where do we actually see these points? Where do healthcare executives actually go in the community when you have times getting hard? Don't just tell me, right? Don't just tell me that, healthcare is too expensive to give perfect treatment for every patient. Don't just tell me that, the expectations are sky high in the age of the internet or whatever it is. Tell me instead about what a health system and what your sort of, day in, day out healthcare professionals need in order to be successful. And tell me who actually helps with that. If I'm a politician, on day one for me, I want to be able to build those relationships. I want to see the PR teams making sure we're having important conversations. Yeah. It's just kind of silly, right? It's kind of bullshit. Kind of silly. NS Clap with the creepy comment of the day. NS Clap says, I am underneath your bed with a camera. Well, I am assuming that you wanted to take a picture of my very cool New Balance. Do you want runner leg? My very cool New Balance 520s. Dab, dab, dab. I got these sneakers used for like $15. I am not a rich man, but I am a humble and grateful one. And I will tell you, that is, if I was running for office, right, if I was running for office, one of you guys can make a YouTube channel to run for office. I just want to bullshit, right? I just want to talk about Diddy one day and then do like geopolitics the next. But if I was running for office, I would say, the reason you'd vote for me is I bring humility to every conversation. And that doesn't matter if I'm talking to your bartender. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to your neighbor or I'm talking to a healthcare executive at one of the largest companies in the United States, like Kaiser Permanente. I would bring humility. Bring humility and bring a juice box so we can keep going. Yeah, big nothing burger for the Diddy trial for sure, dude. Yeah, big nothing burger. He's got another 2 or 3 days before sentencing. Yeah. Whenever you have, I've just noticed this. It's just occurred to me. It's occurred to me that when you have these Trump big beautiful bill things, it occurs to me that we stop talking about things like justice for victims, right? I don't want that country justice bullshit, by the way. Yeah, I'm from Arizona. I'm not that big of a badass, but like I get it. I get it enough, even though I'm not him. You know, let him. If you tell him like let him cook, right? Let Duck cook. Like I'm gonna be like, well, we've analyzed the results of the Diddy trial, and we felt that transparent, honest, clear communication was actually exceeded by the defense team, and in some ways, we felt that there was disingenuity around the physical evidence pertaining to the 3 charges that dropped. We didn't feel like they did as good of a job to clarify what they felt that evidence meant. You've got me going Super Saiyan like this is the most Sigma answer. Big fucking nothing burger, though. Am I high? Cameron Akers, can you ask a nicer question? I think you can do better than that, dude. You can do better than that. He's a CIA agent. See, that's a sick answer, dude. You guys are starting to... I see a lot of new faces. So thanks for joining. If you guys want to like and subscribe, I love when you guys say cool shit like I'm a former CIA agent. I don't think that's true. It's definitely not, but it would be cool as hell if it was. But yeah, our last stream, by the way, just to, you guys sent like 1,900 chat messages. We had 11,000. Our biggest stream so far on the channel. It's been 22,000 viewers. People sticking around for like a minute and a half in like YouTube language. You guys might not care about all that stuff, but if you are new here, you do got the react buttons on the bottom right. Let me know how I'm doing. I always look at those. You guys are chatting up a storm. I'm trying not to get in the way of all that. Let's go, baby. Let's go. I love seeing that. I love seeing that too. It's a party, baby. And then, yeah, that's it. If you guys want to check the leaderboard, you can see folks that have been hanging out and chatting. Yeah, YouTube's been kind of cool. YouTube's bringing people in. You guys have been all talking and stuff like that. And yeah, El Mirage, now shut up. Yeah, so that's it. So slap that like, and yeah, you guys also, if you guys are for my non-normie family here, just so you guys are aware, Google did set up awesome. Yes, that is what I was about to say. First name, last name. You guys look at the space in front of you. Look at, if your hand is here and it can move here, look at what is there, right? You have these very cool Google emojis. I'm not saying for me, go somewhere else, right? Go use those someplace else. Get out of my chat. Get out of my chat. Get off my channel. But actually like and subscribe and hang out. We Jonesin', baby. Do you mean a censor? God bless this chat. Yeah, and there's a couple mods sometimes here. I might add mods in the next couple of days or whatever. But yeah, it's cool. You guys are all being super, I trust, being nice and respectful and kind. I love all that stuff. So I love all that stuff, baby. So let's go. But yeah, Diddy trials bunk. It's about over. And that's it. The Brian Kohberger trial was another one for anyone who does follow true crime stuff. Yeah, accused and now confessed guilty, admitted to the judge that he used a pokey to kill 4 college students living together. So I'm always tripped out by that stuff. I think what justice requires and demands is that, yeah, you have a transparent, fair trial. I think it's important that the state doesn't pull punches for the purpose of the victims and the parents. And I'm always so sort of keenly aware that that's done in a way where the defense team and the suspect, just as both a procedural for a lot of reasons, for so many reasons, it's also then therefore should be the case that the accused in that case can air their side of the story. They can feel confident or as justified as one could, either confessing to the crime or sharing information, not thinking that this will be used against them, but they're participating in the same trial. how it sees fit. Maybe that's too convoluted. So it's always weird, right? On the one hand, you're not doing this long, lengthy trial, and Brian Kohberger, who appeared to be, a disturbed serial killer in Piers Morgan land, right? This is what the public will say about him because he killed 4 college students, and that's why they say that, is because you killed 4 college students. He doesn't have to sit through this long process, and he doesn't have to worry about the death penalty. And on the other side of the fence, it's like, well, yeah, it seems sort of weird in either case that me just sitting in Arizona doesn't have to hear both sides of the story. We never get both sides of the story. We get a plea agreement, and that's justice. Zero Cipher, to the Bible. I had someone ask me the other day. I'd never heard the term before. They asked if I was a hard atheist. I said, okay, sure. You guys know I was preaching in this chat room just 20 minutes ago too, right? Like maybe an hour ago. Someone asked me to preach the gospel, and so I was like, okay, I'll preach the gospel, but you want me to be a hard atheist? Okay, I'm a hard atheist. The Master Key. Take care, guy. Catch your next stream. Al Bundy, good to see you, brother. Australians, awesome. I'll have to have a Foster's next time. Foster's used to sell these little party. Foster's and Heineken used to sell these little party kegs. I know that's not what I should think about for Australia. I don't know what, like the Sydney Opera House or like, indigenous people, dingoes and giant spiders. That stuff terrifies me. It is the most terrifying thing ever. Did I miss a part? Both sides of the story is justice? Yeah, sure. Absolutely. That's what restorative justice. When you look at the damage done to the community, part of a trial for parents, for victims and their parents is saying, well, if you wanted to know what happened, the whole point of what the state does and what the defense team is supposed to respond to is to help people know that story. And if there is an actual deterrent mechanism, it might be said that it's equally strong. Deterrence in a trial is equally strong when you guys whatever. What was I gonna say? Deterrence is equally strong when you know what happened and all this other stuff. Whatever. Let me know if that makes sense or whatever. Or whatever. And then and so when you bring in restorative justice, which looks at the damage done to the community, I could ask like, well, if I could ask a question like, well, look, what makes it different that if actually deeply thinking about the legal theory behind a DUI stop on the 4th of July, right? You've got these people that are walking around touching their nose or whatever it is. And the reason that this might be is that we know that drunk drivers kill more people than anyone. Drunk drivers kill tons of people, and when you have the laws. And so, would it be weird if the US court system said, we're going to expedite prosecution for these DUI stops, for these checkpoints? We're not going to treat them like every other case because it's very clear cut. At a DUI checkpoint, you blow into a tube. They have evidence already that you might be drinking. That counts for both reasonable suspicion and probable cause. You get taken back. They pull your blood. Once they test your blood, they confirm that it was the case. You had alcohol in your bloodstream, which is what the breathalyzer does in the first place. And then at that point, when they refer that case over to the state prosecutor, they'll actually formally file charges against you if it wasn't already the case that they did that in the first place. They will tell you what you're actually going to court for. So you might see a judge, but you might not know the sort of type of DUI you're going to get. And so a judge actually diving into the legal theory could say, well, this is also clean, right? This is crazy. You're in a Mercedes-Benz. You pull up, you blow into a tube. That's the person that's actually going through this process. And it just turns out that there's always a defense for people that committed a crime. You have to be able to have that trial process. And without a lawyer involved, without having a lawyer that's telling you the context for why you're talking, there's not justice. So for Bryan Kohberger and for the community and for the family, like, wouldn't I need to know that defense attorneys are always working to defend their clients against somebody who has too many cases on their desk, or someone who didn't really look at the files that they're going to charge, the charges that they're going to file, all that stuff. Yeah, I kind of need to know that, because I know my mom or dad, my pet hamster might also be in the same predicament. My pet hamster might also have a crime committed against them. Does that mean my pet hamster can have a legal theory about carrying out an egregious punishment against someone because something was done wrong? No. Is it an egregious punishment if you prosecute someone that didn't commit a crime? Absolutely. Is it an egregious punishment if you don't issue a sentence or deliver an internment based upon what the law expects of that sentence? That's the same thing. It's just as bad. Those are all things you're not allowed to believe in. They're all the same or different legal theories. So my point in not defending Bryan Kohberger, but defending the process itself, and as an individual, someone who thinks that even someone like Bryan Kohberger can simultaneously have advocates in the court system while he's also possibly facing a death penalty. I don't think those two are opposite in the beauty of the court of law. Yeah, I'm also with the victim's dad for a different reason, that, well, society deserves to know what happened inside of that house in Idaho. Society decides to know why Bryan Kohberger ended up way up in, people say, BFE, bum freaking Egypt. Why, like, how the hell did you get out of whatever you were doing, and how did you get in there in the first place, right? Those are the two only questions that you were like, do you understand the instructions? Those are the questions that we are eventually asking. Now tell us what, now you drive and tell us what we're supposed to or can do for that conversation, if I even am in the room for it, right? Is that fair? Was this fair? Who knows? That's all I think. Quadruple homicide. Tim Considine, good to see you. Our history books don't even compare for this day and age. Good to see Leon Gibbs. It's hard. Maybe I'm too lazy. I've never been disciplined. I've always felt you need to read a lot of history to get down to the basics of a basic story. A lot of history is required. That's why I like narratives. I like Harry Potter stuff. I'm not like especially for things like history, I'm not a super genius person at all. For sure, due process is a must. Life or death penalty. Yeah, absolutely. Yep, absolutely. Just also considering that by the time you have, I'm not saying that, like, I'm saying that we should be super sure that, lawyers, and like Pisco Sauer is one of these guys. Pisco, is a lawyer, so he talks about this stuff, but it's also always the case that if you have a life or death penalty sentence, you have that type of case. There's already probably substantial evidence that's been produced by the court, like, well, we found a toothbrush at his apartment. We found a toothbrush at his apartment that showed this guy brushed his teeth and he cared about his enamel, and now we're charging him with murder. Like, there's usually something linking that person to a body or a scene or something like that. It's usually physical evidence. The legal system and the medical system. Yeah. Tort reform one day, right? Tort reform one day. Yeah, we're gonna I'm scared too for the next couple of years. Not scared, but not to tell you just what I feel right now. Like, it's almost a certainty. It's like 99% true that we're going to see a rise in consumer debt from this big, beautiful bill. Maybe not right away, but it's probably going to happen. We're not going to see jobs created. We're going to see more spend on stuff that's not a social safety net. And I think by and large, companies will be emboldened if there's a tepid economic climate to take more risks with consumers. And people who don't know, people will just go do that, right? It doesn't matter. Maybe it doesn't matter in the outside of like the actual context of the frickin' thing. It doesn't matter why people take out like bad debt that they shouldn't have or whatever it is. Doesn't matter why we're all consumers. I've got these fake plastic fucking glasses. These don't do anything for me. Why did I buy these? I'll tell you why I buy these. Because for one Halloween, I dressed as Blippi. I dressed up as Blippi. And so I've got orange suspenders, if anyone has kids. I actually wore this shirt. It was the closest to a Blippi shirt I had. And I had costume glasses, yes? All right. All right, costume glasses. There we are. Are your glasses fogging? Poke, poke, poke. Money is printed from thin air. DJ Mars, 1983. Standard CIA kit. Fake glasses. Yes. Absolutely. You know, have you heard the story about the sandwich on the ceiling? I'll tell these here. I'll tell these stories here. So there's a there's a zebra named Zed and a camel named Ricketts. Okay, and Ricketts goes, hey Zed, I got a story I got to tell you, Zed. Ricketts is the camel, and Zebra goes, okay, yeah, tell me what it is. Tell me what you got here. Tell me what we're working on here. And Ricketts goes, hey Zed, I was out to lunch the other day, and the waitress, I'm just being honest, I'm not that critical, but I talked to this lady, and by the time I'd gotten around to it, the sandwich she brought out, it was cold. And so, I was thinking about not leaving a tip, but I left a tip. I didn't even say anything. Do you think I did the right thing? And Zed goes, well, the ingredients weren't wrong. Ricketts, the ingredients weren't wrong. It was just a cold sandwich. And Ricketts goes, yeah, it was just, you're understanding it. Exactly like I said, it was just cold. It was the only thing. And Zed goes, well, you should have thrown it on the fucking floor. That's the joke. Gavin Freeberg, what's up? Good to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Amos, chapter 1, verse 6 through 8. Well, God bless you as well. Then. Yeah, the floor, right? You label me, I label you, Metallica. You label me, I label you. Yeah. Have you guys heard the, I guess since we're doing not normie stuff right now, also, hello to everyone. Have you guys heard the Great Iceberg Conspiracy? It's a Jeff Bezos snow cone, actually. As it turns out, there was no such thing. How would you know, right? Nobody here was alive in 1800. Nobody here was alive, 6,000 years ago when we were supposed to have icebergs sliding the fuck down Wyoming. Who the fuck here knew about icebergs back then, right? You knew that they're supposed to exist, but did you know about them? So it actually turns out that icebergs were formed because Jeff Bezos He thought small appliances were great. He'd always had a passion for them. And it turned out that, yeah, a small army of IoT, Alexa-equipped snow globes, as it were, built the icebergs. They're not melting. They just can't keep up with demand. It's always funny. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Hey, we've got moderation on as well. So, oh, Jim, good to see you. Good to see you. I can show this message. I don't know why. Jim, good to see you again. It's censoring the F word. If you want to say frick or something, cool. I don't mind those types of messages. Yeah, if you guys, the most intelligent or authentic way to say your message is to say a bad word and swear, that's also fine. That's cool too. That's cool too, right? Jim, yeah, it's good to see you. Thanks for stopping in again. Liana Elwood, I think it's time for porn again. Porn again. Do 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 do. I think we can say that as well. Yeah, absolutely. I will make porn great again. Yeah. Another, what are the ethics or morality of being a solo or studio produced OnlyFans creator? What are the ethics of either of those cases? What must they be like? What must they not be like? What do you guys think? Are you guys are fans of red pill stuff? I'm not a red pill guy. I've got kind of a high squeaky voice sometimes when I don't try and hide it. When I put on my world's best dad hat, though, what actually becomes true is I'm actually pretty blue-pilled. I'm pretty no-pilled. What is this internet meme describing my personality? I haven't heard about this. Are there here's a debate topic. Are there intersectional studies? Does intersectionality exist for adult content creators? Boom. Get on my channel, bro. Get on my level. Let's go, baby. I'm just kidding. Does intersectionality exist? I would think it does. I would think that even if OnlyFans was like, here's an argument for you. Even if OnlyFans was like every other industry, and I know a lot about this stuff, so sorry if I'm too esoteric, but I can tell you about what I know. It's the best way to talk. This is something I know about. It is the case that OnlyFans is like every other industry. So just grant me this for a second. And then it's also the case that OnlyFans, like any other industry who has people that work there, has some subset of their employees that come from a background of either poverty or abuse. Okay? Okay, just like every other industry. And so if this is the case, then OnlyFans is just like every other industry in the way that we assess in that there is at least one sort of special class of, or a specific class of people that might have a differing view of whether or not it's just, moral, fair, all this other stuff. If you come from a background of poverty or abuse, you might have a different opinion. This isn't like every other person that's doing OnlyFans or doing TikTok or doing YouTube, bro, or that's doing like freaking Charles Schwab, man. Like that's doing, your whatever, doing fucking Walmart, bro. Yeah, no offense, man. I did like the Lowe's. I didn't do content, but I did become a shift lead at Lowe's, man. No offense, bro. No offense. Oh, yeah. That's interesting. You could also flip this argument. You could say, well, who knows? If it is the case that OnlyFans creators, whether or not they're the ones making money, but just everyone on the platform of OnlyFans has a higher population of people that come from either poverty or abuse, then it may be the case that the morality of having an open social media platform to create adult content, to start your own adult entertainment distribution channel, is very different. And that it isn't like every other industry in that you have the same class of people with the same class of sort of discussions about OnlyFans. So I think that stuff's really interesting. I don't think you have to go too deep inside your brain. I think you can always just ask a question like, well, like, why do we fight? Why do we fight? Why do we fight? You are a lawyer. No, I'm not a lawyer. Like every person I have a degree in political science, so like 70% of us, I had LSAT and GRE flashcards and prep books, and I ended up not doing either. Wonder Bucket says everyone is either conservative or waiting to be. Even the most progressive is waiting for society to reach a state when then they'd want to conserve. Everyone is either a conservative or waiting to be. Even the most progressive is waiting for a society to reach a state that they would then want to conserve. I had a message pinned up this entire stream and I didn't even know. Yeah, I just pinned that up. That's very well said, Wonder Bucket. Liana Elwood above Wonder Bucket says, the ethics of everything is that this reality is not the true reality, so nothing we do here really matters that much. It is just an experience, astral projection, people say so anyways. Yeah. Yeah, that's cool. The ethics of everything, that's a good opinion. The ethics of everything is that this reality is not the true reality. Yeah. So that's sort of fascinating. If I can just add on to that a tiny little bit, kind of play adjacent to that. This is Liana Elwood's comment. The one thing I would say is like, it's so interesting because if I'm talking about reality and it's the type of reality that only a self can produce, I'm only telling you about what Duck can say, right? That's my name on YouTube. This is the channel's DucksY. Do feel free to like and subscribe if you want, but the ethics of everything is that this reality is not true reality. Well, if the reality that I'm taking away from Liana here is that, well, this is what a self produces. This is the same person that can hold a cell phone, that can put on his algorithm boosting costume glasses that he wore to go trick or treating one time, right? Like that kind of bullshit, right? So it's interesting. That's sort of Buddhism, where you say that the self is an illusion. You say astral projection. I can see it that way for sure. Like I'm personally like, this is the only way I can even talk about being a self or not a self, is having like neat categories to sort of define and align things on. I feel like those, if I talk about like, playing a role within a community or a family, or playing a role within like super crazy, like, I don't know, sociology or political science or metaphysics or, cosmology, like that kind of crazy stuff. It's like, well, when I am pushing this idea that isn't even the people themselves, like that's the crazy stuff. That's the crazy stuff. Body count, who's a calculator? I was about to tell y'all, yeah. No. We don't do that stuff. Aren't you Jake Luster? I don't know who Jake Luster is, but good to see you, Goblin. Good to see you. Good to see you. Gotta put the chat in the bag. Yeah, if I'm saying stupid stuff to you, are you committed to YouTube? I don't know, kind of, whatever. Chilling on here. How are you guys all doing? Does anyone here do YouTube? If you guys want to talk about YouTube stuff, yeah, I'm happy to do that for a little bit. I don't want to bore people who aren't content creators, right? That's like your mechanic telling you about how a car works when he's giving you the keys back to your car. It's like, I don't give a shit. Does it work? Right? Isn't that what I paid you for? Yeah, but I'll tell you. So my YouTube inspirations. I don't know if you guys know Travis Pangburn. His channel is Pangburn. That was the first Discord I signed up for. He's produced events with guys like Dinesh D'Souza and Sam Harris, and basically, atheist dweeb heaven, and like I think stuff that's healthy for the brain, useful, youthful and useful. So he's an inspiration. And I BS around a bunch on like some of the panels in Bloodsport debate sphere. Really cool people, right? I feel like I don't know those people all that well, but a lot of those creators, they've been doing it for a while. I feel like they almost have like a big sister, big brother type relationship. So I like talking to them, and yeah. Yeah, my other inspirations is Reddit. I love Reddit. I love going on Discord and Reddit. I used to love collegehumor.com. That was the big one. The other one that I did, one of my favorites of all time. And this is kind of naughty, so don't tell your mommy and daddy. But I'll be honest, the old Yahoo homepage used to have the Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition on there. So I used to love that website. I love that website. Love the content. Love the content creator. This is my favorite. Yeah. I get 2 beef taquitos from Quick Trip, and I go on Reddit. That's how we dab, bro. Why do you have an accent now? NS Clap, do I have an accent? I don't know. I'm trying to present a story for everybody, I guess. I understand what it is to produce a conversation for one person or have a conversation and to do it for more than one people. Some people try to get everyone talking about the same shit, but we're on YouTube mobile. I don't know. I have no idea. Actually, no clue. Alternate personality plus fake glasses. Yeah. All really useful hacks for life that I would highly recommend. On Prime Day, you guys spend at least $1,000 on costume props if you're doing YouTube. Or honestly, just to be honest, right? If there's a 1% chance I'll listen to you, you guys tell me what I should buy on Prime Day. So not Andrew Tate. Somebody was trying to tell me that Andrew Tate has been redeemed. That Andrew Tate is all black pill, white pilled stuff now. But yeah, I'm not red pill at all, Trey Martin. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I'm not a shave and shower. Yeah, that's a good idea, man. Shave in the shower. Let me ask you this though. Let me ask you guys. Someone's saying I should shave and shower. I'm not saying I'm not stinky, but for all y'all in the audience, if I told you, what do you guys have planned for 8 a.m. tomorrow, right? Or if, like, let's just say you wake up and, who knows, if you have work, cool, I'm not talking to you, but, for the 9 to 5 grinders, cool, what's up? I love you guys so much, more than you know. Hopefully we can keep talking and stuff, but yeah, for, if maybe you wake up and you're comfortable doing something you're passionate about or that's productive, it makes you more informed, and you feel that way around like 11 o'clock or whatever, 12 o'clock. So I'm really not trying to narrow it, but then I tell you, you have to shave, you have to shower, you have to, you have to be somewhere at a certain time. Are you still going to go chase and do what you're passionate about or what's productive? Are you still able to keep in context the things you need to do, your responsibilities? What are your responsibilities? What are your duties? How do you know? How do you not know? Jen Wright. Oh boy. Oh dude. No, I'll read this message. Let's see. Jen Wright is in the chat, guys. Let's give Jen Wright a chance. I'm a small up and coming conservative YouTuber. Just wanted you to know You've got other support on YouTube. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, like and subscribe. Sometimes I do open panels during the daytime. Yeah, stuff like that, you know. That stuff's really cool. Yeah, there's lots of ways to you know, edit videos, do shorts. I recommend anyone who's doing YouTube download, like Microsoft Clipchamp is free. There's a couple others. I think DaVinci is free. Learn how to edit a couple videos. But if you just want, if you have some, right, this is what YouTube actually built for you, Jen, right? Here's how I can help you. I come from working in technology, and if you look down, what YouTube actually wants you to do is when you find someone that you're really passionate about, if you're an emotive person, hit the react buttons, right? Do you make content for that kind of stuff? And sorry to be super like culty into YouTube, but let's be transparent. YouTube wants you to use the fancy emojis. First name, last name's dropping some fire. YouTube wants you to check the top fans board. You can see that I've had a couple people that stayed for about 30 minutes today, 45 minutes. You know, so you can know that just from looking. YouTube wants you to both have something that you have to and want to say to your audience, to the algorithm, just on your phone. They don't want you to buy anything else. They want you to be spontaneous and upload a short. They also want you to be the type of MFer. You got to be the motherfucker that also tries uploading a video that you edited, right? Maybe you spent 30 minutes editing a short because it's your first time. This is all fun stuff to learn, and so good luck to Jen Wright on your social media career. And yeah, absolutely. When you can find a way to find subscribers, then you can get in a lot of trouble. You can end up with a channel that you don't love, but you also might, if you find a way to get a lot of subscribers, maybe that's the only thing you want. And so either way, it's cool. Either way, it's cool. Duck is white. Ducks is white. Did you want me to headbang to that? No, I'm not doing that. Am I black? I am obviously a white heteronormative person. Not obvious, but online I describe myself as queer heteronormative. Queer heteronormative. Philosophically, I'm a physicalist. Sorry to nerd out. I love sort of the philosophy of nihilism. I feel like nihilism is a bridge between people with very Christian and very secular worldviews. I feel like it's also a safe way to talk about issues like education or gender, which for some people are very hot button. No offense, but like I want to have the conversation, but let's move around a space that we're both actually really comfortable with and we can be honest with each other. And yeah, let's talk about some controversial topics like the lie of police brutality and racism. The lie of police brutality and racism. Yeah. Some people would want to say that, like, look, you know, a conservative viewpoint or might be that like we have to look past you know, if you think there's police brutality, you have to look past the fact that you know, like Rodney King ran from the police, right? You have to look past the fact that, you know, police have a certain protocol for this. And yeah, absolutely. When you look at the, you know, when you say that there's an aggregate relationship, right? An aggregate relationship between police and society, and historically, you know, who knows? Maybe nothing was wrong, but there wasn't a conversation. Grant me that, right? I'm not saying that your buddy Duck is trying to throw a intersectional fastball at you. I wouldn't say that, not even in the slightest, not even the first time. All I'm trying to tell you is that, yeah, there's two sides to that story. And if you can tell me what the story is, then maybe there's three sides to it. Of course, but there's still police officers that, police officers, when you sign up to be in the military or something like that, like a police officer or something like that, you know, they probably make sure that you're willing to apply violence in specific cases and you sort of understand what that means in the police force. And yeah, can a society exist without that stuff? Like, well, how did you even get to that topic or presupposition? Like, are you that Buddhist? Are you that Buddhist, or are you that violent? What are we actually talking about here? Jeremy Valderas says Diddy didn't do anything other than be a freak. Yeah, it seems like, unless there's a conspiracy, it seems like Diddy was involved with and adjacent to underage and exploited sex workers. So, maybe Diddy is the head coach of the scumbag mafia. Maybe he's not. I've never met the guy. But it seems like the culmination of his life experiences allowed him to see these sort of very key events and relationships as not being that important, and they're things that normal fucking people would see as important, normal human beings, and a jury decided there's at least enough physical evidence that Diddy was participating in a prostitution ring. So there you go. That's not I'm not a Christian, but if I was, I would say that sure as shit isn't my pastor. Sorry. Sure as shit isn't. Jim's sick of talking about racism in America. Yeah, in times like this, when we have the big beautiful bill passing, I'd love to see someone artfully bring up a new topic, or tell me what the happenings are when we talk about inclusion, DEI, when we talk about sharing intersectional stories. Even as a guy that's pretty centrist, maybe I go on vacation, right? If you want to know who I am, Duck, I'll go on vacation and I'll go to the far left, right? I used to love Karl Marx. I don't anymore, but like I'll still go on vacation and I want to see what like Red May TV. That's a great YouTube channel if you're into that left stuff, left leaning stuff. So I would like to see someone do that stuff really well. It's not going to hurt your brain. It's not going to hurt your brain cells. Nick, who knows? Maybe you find a new perspective, and that's the priority. DEI is racist, says Johnny. Yeah, let me know. Johnny, I'll pin your message up if you have an idea about it. Bob says DEI is racist 100%. So, guys, you guys got to go out and, like, no offense, I'm not trying to grow my channel that fast, but find me some like really, really sort of good center, sort of really good far center to far left audience members, and then like we can talk about MAGA too. Okay, I can cut your grass for $20. Tatsumi, I appreciate that grind. I appreciate that work ethic. I don't know if there's context to that message, but am I a Viking? I'm going to pin that message up. Thank you for asking. I am not a Viking. I used to work with some, I worked with the Norse. I've worked out of, whatever you call it up there. Northern Europe. Yep. If you're not under it, you're over it. Respect women, but not today. Do I like Taco Bell? I like being confused about your username, respect women, but not today. And yeah, I used to eat a ton of Taco Bell. I used to love the breakfast crunch wraps. Just being transparent, I eat vegan now. Yeah, if I haven't told you guys, I'm an ethical vegan. Yeah, it worked for my diet. I felt trying to, look, I'm not, okay. When I worked in corporate America, I wanted my brain off. I was so sick of everything after work. I didn't do that long, but I did it for a very solid 10 years. I did high stress jobs. Yeah, whatever. Oh, boo-hoo, says all the old people. Boo-hoo yourself. Boo-hoo, says the young people. Boo-hoo yourself. Also, what are you asking, right? Let's be honest. Let's be honest again. But yeah, for me, you guys know Nate Diaz, right? Nate Diaz is a vegan. Cam Newton, a bunch of really good athletics folks. Spending spending 1 dedicated hour or spending 3 dedicated hours on athletic training, like a weight session or running, right? Like an A-skip, like a push-up, like a burpee. It's like all those things. For me, a plant-based diet helps me be able to stretch my day out and be satisfied with it. So that's why I'm an ethical vegan, and you guys should be ethical vegans too. Do you guys want to come? Do you guys want to come to the Church of Ethical Veganism? We've got lots of people here. Yeah, lots and lots of people. Going against nature. Johnny says, going against nature is never clever. I love it. That's a great message, Johnny. It's never clever, baby. What's up, dog? How you doing? Isaiah, I don't know what your name is. I'm sorry, I can't read those, what appears to be another language of symbols, but what's up? How am I doing? I'm doing good. It's good to see you, whoever you are. Whoever you are, wherever you come from, I'm glad you're here. Pescatarian. Yeah. I went on a cruise once. I had one of Guy Fieri's hamburgers, and the rest of the vacation, I like really made a dedicated sort of decision, to be honest towards you guys, to like eat the fish dishes. They had a free lox on bagels, which I thought was convenient, right? It's like, how often can you just order like really high-end good food? Not that often, right? But yeah, I think right now where I'm at in my life, if I can dress up a bowl of spinach, or, if I get good at cooking potatoes, I have a can of beans and a potato, that's vegan, right? Technically that's vegan. So, yeah, you do you. Whatever you guys think is good. Have fun. Name the 5,000. Isabel. No, if you guys are blowing back a little bit, enjoying the stream, shout out. I won't tell you to take a hit for me. I did all that stuff. Yeah, I worked restaurants and bartended and stuff in college. I was a server. I loved my job, right? It wasn't that cool, but it was a good job, right? It's a good job. So I did that when I was in college, and I did that after college for a couple of years too. About that time, yeah. So yeah. I majored in political science. So I didn't take my SATs. I'll tell you this funny story. If you want to hear it. I didn't take my SATs. My parents just always told me, you're going to go to community college. And I said, okay, cool. Sounds good. It's funny. I had college credits and stuff, but I didn't think of like, my friends were like, by their freshman, sophomore year, were thinking like, how can I get as many credits and like take my SATs and stuff? I didn't think like that. I was very much like smooth top of the brain, just like, okay, I'm going to go to class. I'm going to get good grades. So anyways, I get to college, I enroll in a business major. I had passed over all my calculus credits from high school. I was not smart, but I was that smart. I was smart enough to get AP credits in calculus. And I had a business calc class and accounting class. I fell asleep my first day of accounting class, and and my business calc class, I just didn't know what I was supposed to be doing. I didn't understand any of it. So I was one of those people who the next day I went to the counselor's office. I requested the paperwork to change majors. We were still in that window. I went home like that day from school, and right away I went on the website and searched their policy for dropping and switching classes. Because I had already fucking paid them, I think, or whatever. I didn't want to miss a whole semester of school, right? So yeah, and so I said I switched my major that day to political science, and I still remember the main sort of community college professor. I still remembered him and I remember what I learned from him what we learned in those classes when I was at a university. Yeah, and yeah, it's not like about comparing people, but even when I had like honors classes in college, and in college, like some of my classes, like my class on the European Union, there were probably 70 or 100 people in a lecture hall, right? It was a very linear class, maybe 35 people, right? It wasn't that big, but it wasn't small for an upper level class. 35 people, it was a lot. There are people in every row. You walk in, you're just a number, right? You sit down, there's a lecture, and we had good teachers, but and sorry to ramble on. Do stick around there, lad. Do stick around. We're talking. And so even when I was learning constitutional law, as it were, or the impact of Western political thought in Latin American state formation, as it were, in the maybe late 19th, the late 18th century up into the turn of the 20th century, with perhaps 8 other brilliant students, Fulbright scholars, would you have, as it were. Yeah, I still thought, bro, I learned the right stuff from at community college. It was awesome, right? I still knew who he was. To this day, I still remember him, right? Dr. A, Dr. A, blang, blang. Badass. Yeah, feel good. I had one of my philosophy professors. He was also the dude that ran philosophy club. He wrote a book while he published the book he'd been writing, but really niche topic, right? It was from an academic press, probably a really great book and stuff like that. It was never going, like, there was a 0% chance that book would get picked up as, maybe it could have done better than it did. It's like a really well done topic. The book was on Plato and Plotinus. It was about mysticism and ancient Greek philosophy. So yeah, who knows? Maybe there's some classicists or ancient philosopher experts who would see that book and they say, yeah, order me a copy. I'm gonna call my dean. I'm gonna get them to pay for it or something. Am I Winnipeg? Am I writing? I'm not writing right now. I swear to God, my hand to God, I'm not writing. I'm not writing a thing, dude. Not writing anything. I don't know. Yeah, but that guy wrote a book at community college. So yeah, if anyone here is in college, debating academia, debating doing a teaching degree, all I can say about my own professional career is that if your career is rewarding, if you like your day-to-day work, and you don't have to decide that right away, but yeah, maybe it sounds prestigious to chase a sort of tier 1 graduate program, or to, try and, really go that sort of academic track, to get into like an assistant professorship or professorship at a big school. Who knows? Maybe that stuff is right. I obviously don't know anything about academia itself. But yeah, if you enjoy your day-to-day, like you can still teach, you can still do the things that you want to do. You'll figure that stuff out. And if you're older than me, you already know that. Cool. So leave it in chat, guys. Leave it in chat the ways in which you've taught at community college while also writing books and conducting research. Yeah, tell me about, your best students, your worst students, but mostly about teaching at community colleges, guys. You guys go to community college? What do you think? Community college, is that right, man? Bitch, please. Pagan Prince, what's up? Good to see you, brother. Good to see you, brother, sister, cousin. My man. Show out until you pass out, bro. To white poverty, you have overdue library books. Yeah, I look the type. It must be. It's got to be the case. No. I was good about library books. I do think one year I sold books and went out and bought. This was like later in college when I was I wasn't sick of doing college. I was sick of a lot of stuff. I had depression in college. You know, this is my boo-hoo story, but yeah, I think 1 year in college, I when I sold my textbooks, I went out and bought some, uh, you know, the Cheech and Chong, as it were. I majored in sociology and now heading to an MPA in the fall. Cool. Good luck. Good luck to you for that. Master's in public administration. Very cool. That's awesome. Yeah. Good luck to you. That's all I have. Academic is a fancy title for a clown. Ghost magic. Yeah, sometimes. If I'll never say that because, but I think that there are people in academia that want to be more public about ideas. They want people to be excited about just the fact that we have people that spend their full life studying knowledge. So one thing I'll say is that, like, the actual clown, right, the actual John Gacy that pops out of the closet in academia is that, like, look, everyone is an epistemologist. Everyone is a metaphysician. You have, in theory, even people that appear on the far right and left should be able to have these really, really good conversations about what the world might be like, how we communicate that, how we can communicate that, and yeah, how big that narrative is, right? So, like, what if I tell you that the biggest story ever, and this could be a fancy YouTube video, it could be, right? But, like, what if I told you the biggest story ever is that, we know all of human life starts in Africa. And if you actually look at the fossil record, there's more than 20 different species of humans who all may have lived within nature and with their families different and at different time periods. And then you get humans, all of humans coming from the continent of Africa. There's no Atlantis. There's no Mars attacks. There's nothing else. There's just Africa. And then as we move out and we see places like China or Europe starting to develop gunpowder, starting to develop more tempered forms of steel, that they used to go out and conquer empires. And we imagine this is as simple as might makes right. We just imagine that the world is like this, but people don't realize that there were perhaps hundreds or thousands of strategies that each of our ancestors used to be successful and eventually become the Homo sapien, nay, that Homo sapien. They became him that emerged out of Africa, from the out of Africa hypothesis, or whatever it is. And yet we say something simple like might makes right. It just has to. It makes me think. It makes me wonder. Because I can't imagine that you have a simple society that makes a decision to go out and conquer the world. So what do people actually mean when they go online and they tell you, well, might makes right, right? You have to have this patriarchal vision of society, or it's got to be third wave, like matriarchy. I'm going to communicate it to you like this. I can disagree with both of those and say those both sound sort of batshit crazy, because you're not talking about this actual strategy ballooning out, and really what emerges is that, like, our lack of identity or common identity, it's either so simple that our stomachs are so good at driving us over this period of time, which isn't might makes right. It's something very different. And even if that's true, then that doesn't change the fact of why we eventually, as Homo sapiens, were the ones that left the continent. I identify as non-binary. Hey, Paul, what's up? Good to see you. Yeah, cool. Good for you. I bet you could find an even more clever way to say that if it didn't have the carpets or the ceilings of perhaps being an exclusive joke. Just the joke itself. The joke itself, all I would say as a critic of Hollywood is that the joke itself does not include perhaps people who are LGBTQ+. They may not see that as funny. So you could rephrase this. Did you hear what happened to Nick Gurr? I don't know who Nick Gurr is. I don't know if that was for me, but I don't know who Nick Gurr is. Manifest Destiny. Manifest Destiny or something. Yeah, absolutely crazy story. You know, if you want to, I love doing irrelevant conspiracy theories, but it had to have been the case that by the time the turn of the 19th century came around, that men like Thomas Jefferson would have known that eventually men would fight and die for oil. There was going to be a resource that was more valuable than others. And so the entire narrative about manifest destiny being true, who knows? Yeah, absolutely. Not doing, like, if we're on YouTube mobile, maybe the actual history of manifest destiny, well documented. This is what manifest destiny is about, what a local politician would say and do anywhere in the country. This is what they would tell you they would do to support you and help you out. This is how they would think about the Constitution. This is how they would think about personhood. It's what some people would ask you to consider. All kinds of stuff. If you take one thing away from manifest destiny, it is how life was done. But if you are into conspiracies, yeah, it's all about technology. It's all about technology and your ability to project power using that technology. You know, John Merschmeyer, Peter Zehan, etc., etc. The story never stops. Just stop. Greasy Jesus, Omna, yeah. Nah, I'm that Tongan motherfucker on the football team. Am I an avid reader? My guys hopped up on something. Hell yeah. No, no to that. And yeah, no. I'm an avid understander. Yeah, I don't mind skimming through 20 to 40 pages, right? Okay, this is my most good faith answer to that is, like, if I have to know something or really want to know something, I'll go through 20 to 40 pages. I'll find the relevant texts and the texts that support it, and then I'm done. I will generally understand at least enough for right now, right? Enough. And so I used to like reading a little bit more. What's your stance? My moral stance is hips open, hip down, cross-face whizzer. What I say is that in 2025, a strong Buddhist man has a nice soft thumb bone. There's never a need for it, actually. But as it were, yeah. Go ahead. Also, thank you guys for supporting the stream. If you want to like and subscribe, please do. I'm going to start doing some fitness workouts. It's always awesome to talk to you guys. I usually love pinning up more messages, trying to engage with you guys a bit more. But I'm also happy to just kind of share your topic in the way that is coming off my head. And yeah, I do look like an off-brand Jesus. Buckets. I appreciate that. Yeah. So Parker, yeah, my stance is I tend to be, if this is like, I'm more of a centrist. A centrist, progressive to center, centrist. I would say, I also like here, because there's 40 of us watching. As a YouTuber, like, I try and promote conversations when I debate people. If you guys want to have political conversations, discussions, debates, I try and never be like a total bitch or whatever. Like, we can just talk. I can share what I don't like about your argument, or, some point, maybe if you guys want, do actual debates. Who knows? Maybe I'll open up some of these streams at some point in time, bro, to like Discord debates or something. Who knows? I don't know. Yeah, I just had an open panel yesterday, so that's why I said that. So we did an open panel the other day I'll tell you guys about that too. Give me 30 seconds to plug my own channel. Our panel the other day, we explored Robert Gurr's work on relative deprivation. So if you ever wonder why we see like either Islamic or pirate groups rising up, like these rebels, these rebellions, Robert Gurr was a social and political scientist who studied that topic. So he brings in enough psychology, talks about the material drivers, but yeah, maybe we'll do some more normal stuff. But and some of that stuff, if you guys want to like and subscribe, I'll do those from my PC. I'll open up a panel. We can just hang out and talk about stuff. I'll pull stuff up on screen. And I've always found that folks that want to hop up end up driving the conversation, contributing. People in the audience love it. It's always fun. Conwell, make your butt talk. Make that booty twerk. Make the booty twerk. Cool. Yeah, Parker, good to have you here then. Good to have you either way. Pagan Prince, I settle as both a pagan advocate. Let's hear this. I want to hear Pagan Prince here real quick. It says, I settle as both a pagan advocate but an experienced Christian. I see a man before me seemingly lost, looking for a reason. I apologize for any rudeness. I usually take a jab to open up to live people. Let's go, Pagan Prince. That's fair. That is completely fair. Yeah. Yeah. So my two opinions of this is, yeah, that's cool. If you believe that perhaps God himself has more than one highest truth, and so we are equating a sense of metaphysical or epistemic sort of paganness as not idolatry, but compatible with Christianity. Like, that's an interesting idea. That's kind of cool. It sounds like complete bullshit. And then a man about me, if that's me personally seemingly lost, I would say that, like, yeah, phenomenologists, the Freudian, Jungian sort of bullshit, being completely honest, it's super interesting and it's good to understand this idea of beingness or an actual psychology willing itself out and the difference between those two. And yeah, looking for a reason, some people are existentialists. Some people have a hard time communicating non-simple reasons. And I think that's also cool. Let me know, guys. You don't have to, I'm not going to try and recruit you to a cult like the second or ever. But like, yeah, if you guys are looking for a reason or something like that, yeah, it's cool. I can tell people I care about my family. I can tell people I took my job seriously. I can tell people that, I wish I'd spent more time investing in my health and social relationships, and I love having conversations. I could tell people that. I can't really tell you more than that, though, right? Bob was saying I was former CIA. I can tell you stories about a camel named Zed and a zebra named Ricketts if you guys want, but I'm just fucking with you guys. But yeah, that stuff's always hard. Tell me your reason. What's your meaning for this? Those are big burgers, Pagan Prince. You're hitting hard. Are you knighting? I don't know what that means. Absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. Absence. Okay, so absence of evidence, so there's no evidence, is not itself evidence of absence. Yeah. So absence of evidence is actually referring to something particular. It's not referring to a particular, but it's referring to something specific in the world, right? So if I say, I can explain this. This is Danny Williams, really good. These are kind of fun to not deconstruct, but understand. I just pinned it up in chat. Go ahead, refresh your chat if you need to. Or I don't know if YouTube mobile work, but absence of evidence. So if I say that, yeah, Tom went to see if Jerry stole the cookies, and Tom said that he didn't have any evidence. So absence of evidence in this case, in the most grandiose sense, could be talking actually about Tom looking for evidence, right? So if we're talking about something like God, well, does that still apply? Is that analogous? Well, I can be either a theist or an atheist about this. If I'm being a theist, which I actually love to do, even though I'm an atheist, I'm not an undercover theist. We'll talk about that some other time. But so absence of evidence. Well, is it fair to say that humans have been searching for evidence in the sense that evidence is used here forever? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's, I'm just misapplying this quote, but yeah, who knows? isn't if we're talking philosophy and we're talking either some type of knowledge, if I say, my belief in Christ or my lack of belief in Christ helps me out, right? Which one? If I tell you that, and and it's actually true, right? Either me believing or not believing in God is therefore because of my experience and what all of us will talk about one day, what all of us will be able to one day see as possibly true. Yeah, just that life happens, and it generally happens to be fairly good and more charitable than you think it is. Most philosophers say, yeah, that's knowledge, right? Okay, cool. It's not that important. It's not like some special type of knowledge, right? You can't write a textbook because you think your belief or lack of belief in Jesus helps people. But yeah, sure, it's a type of knowledge. Like, calm down. It's self-knowledge. Calm down. But yeah. So is that evidence? Is that typically when we say there's an absence of evidence? Well, that also sounds weird there, right? We're not getting too philosophical. I'll recommend, if you guys like this type of stuff, just one of the creators I like following, Lance Independent, his actual academic philosophy. We'll bounce on to Diddy or something in a second, but yeah. But he's an inspiration. He's a really smart guy, great at explaining, very thorough. But yeah, so Jesus helps me in my own life. I don't believe in Jesus, and that helps me in my own life. It's all the same thing. It sounds very strange if we're talking about self-knowledge as evidence. It sounds very strange to say there's an absence of that. So, and this is just, a lot of depth from Danny Williams' comment. I very much appreciate you. I went ahead and unpinned that, but that was interesting to think about. Really interesting to think about. Matthew McConaughey. Yeah. I watched that True Detective show a long time back. I think this was when I was still drinking alcohol, as it were. I don't remember that show that well. I don't know. It might have just been because frickin' what's it called? That show sucked, kind of. No offense. There is probably not a God. Yeah, maybe Matt Acoustic. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. When I talk about like my super deep atheism, or why I talk about that experience on the internet sometimes, I don't like the idea that either side. This is what makes me actually a very, very, very deconstructive hard atheist when I do it, is that I think it's weird to say, well, if you say there's probably not a God, and I just have to imagine this greatest, most metaphysical being, like most people say, you're right to say that. But I don't think that's fair. Like Philip Goff is one of these guys that talks about a small God, a minimal God who's still God, right? It's still everything that God in the Bible might be like. It's still basically everything, essentially everything. The actual truth of everything in the Bible is this minimal God. So yeah, and this isn't to, but just to be fair to both sides, Matt Acoustic, I don't disagree with you. I think in all probability, and I was just thinking about Bayes again today again too. Yeah, in the void, the void, the void. In the void, the void, the void. I was thinking about that Bayes the other day too, right? About the word probablys. When you're talking about probably, you're probably talking about what Bayes probably actually thought that you should probably think. And yeah, it's difficult to say. So I'll explain this real quick. This is the way I understand it is, like, let's say I want to construct a really funky thought experiment. Kind of fucked up. It's not that fucked up, but kind of a fucked up thought experiment. And so, like, look, I say I'm going to pull 100 physicists, top physicists in the world. I'm only exclusively going to go talk to people that maybe did like math competitions when they were younger, and now they're doing either cosmology or astrophysics or theoretical physics, or they're working on a string theory, or they're doing like cutting edge experimental physics. I only want 100 people that between you and me, we're never going to talk to these people. What would we would have a human conversation, but what would we say? And I'm going to ask these 100 people to be kind of a troll if they believe in gravity or not. What percentage do they think gravity is true? What percentage do they think gravity is true? So let's say I go do this, right? And let's just say, because it's a funky thought experiment, I get a really fucked up, funny result, right? And the intellectuals here with us know that gravity, like Newton described, isn't real. There's nothing in the universe that is Newtonian gravity, that's dropping a vape pen. It's an equation, and it describes what we're going to measure. But if we actually look at where gravity lives or what it is, all we have is this big macro thump. It's a big thud. It's a big force. It's like saying that, Warren Sapp would sack Tom Brady. One of these old linemen, Brian Urlacher would sack Tom Brady. Yeah, of course, 9.8 meters per second. One thing. It's so simple. But let's say in our funky thought experiment, someone says, well, look, I can't get over the fact that there's a 1% chance that gravity might be real, right? Yeah, I understand Newton's equations aren't purely right, but 9.8 meters per second, dude. I think I can pull out of string theory and particle physics a unified description of this falling. So I think there's a 1% chance that gravity is true. 1% chance that gravity is true. Well, so this is what Bayes' theorem to me in a very applied, applicable sense says. So what Bayes' theory says is that if you're saying that there's a 1% chance gravity is true, that you have the stump, well, it's sort of like you have to have that 1% confidence. You have to get to the 1% confidence in results, sort of. But like, it's also saying that when you're looking at other theories, you also now have to consider what it's like. When you're looking at other results, if you're looking at quantum theories or particle physics, and you're the crazy person saying there's a 1% chance that like physics from the year 1600 were true, you're that smart, crazy person, no offense. You also have to sort of factor in the chance that, what you're talking about is actually right, because there's evidence for it. There's not no evidence for it. There's not enough evidence for it, but there's no evidence, and that's why we have a probability. So anyways, if anyone's like super nerdy into that kind of stuff, I know that's not what Bayes' theorem actually is. It's like a formulaic way to calculate based on prior probabilities. But that's sort of what I think the significance or importance of that idea is, right? Of course. That's what the significance of those ideas is. Whoops. Some people lead, most want to be led, says first name, last name. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, everybody at some point sort of, has that opportunity to step up for a leadership role or whatever. It's always like, well, what's the, why, where, when, whatever. Mad Acoustic 1, what's up? I could. Yeah, this is on YouTube. This is live on YouTube. We talked about YouTube a little bit. We just talked about Bayes and stuff. But yeah, this is just on my smartphone. Yeah, for all the blue-collar folks doing YouTube or something right now, I don't know what your sort of core topic or annoyance is, but yeah, you guys can have the hardest working smartphone on YouTube or something. New Normal 42. I wish there was a viable leader today. I do too. One day soon, maybe. Not in like a conspiratorial sense or anything like that, but bro, do you like men? Yeah, I like guys. Guys are cool. I'm queer heteronormative, meaning I'm not sexually attracted to men, but it's very comfortable or easy to associate with queer culture. There you go, baby. There you go, baby. Kevin Johnson coming in with the flat Earth stuff. Yeah, I like MC Toon. I've been on his show. I've been on his show once. He thought I was going to be a crazy person. So, but yeah, the one thing I don't like about flat Earth is I've been on the politics Discord, and the men and the people in that, they were super mean. I felt they were really mean. I didn't know it was going to be like an us versus them thing. Whoa, it's Lee. Thank you for complimenting my beard. I love it. I absolutely love it. Yeah. Getting, we're singing. Oh my God, my head. Bit of a headache. Maybe it's because this beard is my beard itself is pulling down gravity itself into my brain itself. All of these itselfs. And that's so funny. When we come up with these macro descriptions, just for the physics nerds, we did some of the normie stuff. So I'm going to do one quick physics thing. It's so weird because, and I actually know a little bit about this. So be skeptical, but be 1% trusting, and this is going to be fun. It's so weird because this sounds like it's actually a realistic description, right? Maybe it's not this beard, but hypothetically, you have some sort of planetary object which is oblong. And, we kind of know what gravity's supposed to do. You're supposed to compactify it. But just considering like the absurdity of asking about, oh, my gravity's pulling down the beard into my face, into my brain. This almost, maybe it is I'm not signifying the problem correctly itself. Intuitively, I definitely know people would disagree. But if I am talking about something in reality, this also almost overwrites our neuropsychology now, right? We often think that we have these sort of unified, discrete sort of bounded, like functional descriptions of how a brain might be able to work or how a neural network works, why we're able to describe those things even without physics, if that's possible. But kind of foregoing quite a bit. My beard is pulling down gravity through my face into my brain, and so now it's like, well, what happens to my prefrontal cortex? Nothing, you say. That's not about gravity or physics at all. And that's your answer. And that's, if we're talking about complexity, which we also talk about complexity within the prefrontal cortex or any neural network, and we sort of should imagine that, it would play a role at some point in time. Super, super like narcissistic of me to say that, but it's just kind of funny seeing that whoosh moment. Yeah, it's whatever. Nice beard. Mine looks the same as yours. Let's go, baby. Tommy Benson, let's go. Alec Tate for mayor. Dog food, hog truth. Dog food, hog truth. Dog food, hog truth. All right. Yeah. I don't know what dog food, hog truth means, but it sounds cool. Sounds all right. David Bull says, yes, daddy. Yes, daddy, senpai, dweeb daddy. All right. Objectively, we're as simple as any other animal. Objectively, we are as simple as any other animal. Yeah, that's cool. Picture an ant being that important. Picture an ant ever being that important. Why would it not be? Why would it not be? Break the fucking routine, right? Break the routine, break free, if you would. Seriously. If I was in the Marine Corps ever, I haven't been, or I can just picture starting my own country. I'll just start saying that. If I start my own country, and I'm not obviously thinking about secession because the United States is dope, but if I did, I would definitely have drill sergeants that were like, it's round about fucking 11 a.m. tomorrow. You're not considering or had considered and decide either for or against hard physical labor. And by hard, I mean whatever you're comfortable with. Then your ass is going to be in the same position it was because it's still 11 a.m. I am simply describing one possible outcome, that you could have a cup of coffee, and that's it, because we got coffee. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's go. That's what I think America is about, dear lad. It's about the ability to funnel the absurdity into the presence of coffee. A nice black Colombian, as I'd say back in my day. Now, if I could just mention smallly but briefly for everyone in the audience, we have 31 people, as I see fit, and 68 likes. Could I see a 69th like? And I would say not one more, but if I recall my time in Colombia, the number 69 is invoking the Mayan synergies of fit and togetherness. Yes. Yes. I don't know. I just farted. America's about being a melting pot. Yeah. I'm not going to do cartoon voices while somebody is talking about the sacredness, the sacred idea of being a melting pot, which for what it's worth, Republicans and Democrats still agree about in the US. I don't know where y'all are from, and whoever just smashed those hearts in the react button and smashed that like button and got us to 69, let's go. That's 70. Let's go, baby. Let's remember the past and let's look forward towards the future. For some days where we have 70 likes on a live stream, there will be also a point where we have 69 likes. Do you deny that? We all used to agree that America was a melting pot. There was nothing that was better or worse than anyone else. No person. And the way in which a lived experience could be understood, I would imagine, has evolved through the days and ages. And one of the great things about academic philosophy, as we all whistle through our cavities, the holes in our teeth, the very mechanism by which we as a country have been able to chew through and dive through some of the hardest lived experiences happening within a much more complex, much more responsibility-dense layer of society, if that makes sense. As we whistle through this, we have attempted to make it the case that people could be seen, felt, heard, and perhaps understand and be understood in the same context, in the same light. And so if I could say one thing about America being a melting pot is that the ideas matter, okay? Your buddy Duck, I'll be completely honest with you. I'm not trying to do social engineering, non-normie stuff here, but ideas always have mattered. And psychologically, ideas matter. So just so you guys understand that distinction from my perspective or whatever, I've said it. So our melting pot has always asked about the best the next 20 years can produce, and it's asked about the worst that exists right now. And in the United States and any country, the best we could actually hope for is being realistic for God's sake, first and foremost. For first and foremost, instead of picturing a greatest possible world, let's be honest and together in our realisticness, because that's one reality. And then the other aspect is that you cannot separate that the worst and the best have a connection to each other. They're all happening here in our country. I would like to see Zoran Mamdani talk about, as someone who's sort of center, skeptical, but progressive and cheering from the sidelines, I would like to see the Democratic Socialist running for mayor in New York to talk about the worst experiences and realistic solutions in New York City. That would be my challenge for you guys, for like one of you who's here, like half of you, right? Half of one person, half of one person. So that's 1/90th of a person, 1/90th of our total audience is like, yeah, let's drive a better conversation on the left and the right? Let's make it work for everyone, but let's do that because we're talking about reality and honesty and we're talking about the actual right size solutions. Like, I'm not gonna go tell this guy that I ran out of Baja sauce if I have Baja sauce. But if he's the one with Baja sauce and he tells me that a green jalapeno sauce is the same as a Baja sauce, I know he's lying, man. I know in my heart of hearts that only pico de gallo is salsa fresca. I know in my heart of hearts that without the jalapenos or the Baja sauce on like the grocery store, as it were, then there is only like the grocery store aisles, I think. I kind of lost it, but if you understood what you got inside my head, like, hello, duh. You know, he says duh. I'm like, you know, that's a green jalapeno sauce, man. It's not fresca. Be direct, my dude. Be kind to humans. Let's go. L is regulating in chat. Let's go, L. Godly leprechaun, get your hand out of my pocket. Get your hand out of my pocket. Yep. I feel ya. If you want to expand on that a little bit. Yep. Yeah. John Locke says that we have the right to property. He doesn't say we have the unequivocal right to property. He says we should have a limited government. He doesn't specify what universally a limited government is. He specifies a limited government relative to natural rights of men, which not all people believe in. And so, Godly Leprechaun, my response to you as to get your hands out of my pocket is, if that's referring to taxation, that we've seen taxation as theft 15 years ago in the United States. And this is when the conspiracy theories started. This is when people began denying what I see as a more viable version of reality. And this is the same thing. This is saying that, well, if Godly Leprechaun says, get your hands out of my pocket, which I understand you, and I say instead, well, you know, communicate that idea to a lot of different people that need to vote for it. What is actual democratic representation? I don't think you can do that. That would be a challenge to you. And I say that because you said it commanding, so I said it commanding back. So I'm so sorry. I'm a normie. I swear to God, I'm a normie. I swear to God, Your Honor. Tax is a Roman piracy policy. Piracy policy. Tax is a Roman policy. Yeah, taxation kept the Roman bureaucracy together, as well as the Roman Empire in terms of their military might. So all of those things were depending on really complex social mechanisms, social organization. Those were, who knows, maybe there were, some people would say, I want to start talking about norms. That's cool. Historians might just say, well, look, you know, you could go from Rome to wherever Rome went to, and you know, you had a common tongue because you had a common currency. You talked about gold and death, and anything that gold and death would bring you. Anything that gold and death would bring you. Maybe this was a carryover from more ancient civilizations, that you didn't have a metaphysics of economy. You had a metaphysics of state, and state and society were sort of the same thing. We can see that a little more nuanced now. So I'm not going to go too much deeper into that. What's the difference between a garbanzo? I love that. Xylo16 asking an ethical vegan question. I don't actually know what the difference between a garbanzo bean and a chickpea is. I don't know. That's a good question. What happened to your leg? I don't know. I got hungry, and then I got shredded, and then I got hungry again. And if you get hungry and shredded repeatedly in succession, do you get strong? No. No, you don't. But you get connected. That's for damn sure. I don't know. I'm not telling you truth. I'm telling you praxis. I'm telling you stuff I've experienced or gone through. Run it up. How long have I been growing my beard? Around about 4 or 5 years. 4 or 5 years I've been growing the beard. Then I hope it looks nice. I hope it looks pretty good. Do I have any family in the army? My grandparents served in Yes, ma'am. My grandparents served in Air Force, Korean World War II, as well as I had grandparents that served in the Army. Thereabouts 3.14 medical. That was out of Richmond, New Brunswick, in Virginia and Washington. You understand? Yeah. Before they had E4s, my grandpa was an E4, but then he got a pilot license, so yeah. They told him he could be a E8. You understand? You understand what I meant? Where do you live? I live in the Southwest U.S., Arizona. Arizona is one of the least popular states for YouTube creators and all that stuff. YouTube creation. Do you guys like talking about YouTube stuff? I don't know. Yeah, it's cool. It takes so long to learn shit. Fake knowledge. Joseph DeMarzo says, buddy, you're burnt. Yeah, I'm fried, brother. I'm fried, man. I am fried. What do you know about Saudi Arabia using AZ to grow alfalfa? Arizona's strategic priority is a country that Arizona as a state connects a lot of the West. We've got important highways, we've got rail lines and stuff out here. Also makes it very attractive for both our urban areas to grow, as well as producing expensive, durable products here, high-tech manufacturing. And so I'm not surprised because Arizona is sort of at the center of a lot of energy concerns, resource concerns like water, also like an aging grid. It doesn't surprise me that Saudi Arabia or China is out here, and that, yeah, they have a certain goal for the productivity of slots of land, probably like some other people, maybe not like all people, maybe not like all other people. Yeah, it doesn't surprise me that they're out here using a ton of water. I think that is a solvable problem in both nationalism and cosmopolitanism, and I think it's okay to say nationalism and cosmopolitanism in the same sentence. I can think of myself as a global citizen, and as a country, I can also think of ways that, in small ways, that the federal government and small ways that local communities and individuals can promote both of those things. If we know that's going to happen anyways, that I have to make rational decisions based on lots of information, lots of other people, it just makes sense. Why do you sound so smart, but you look like a hippie? Did you give up on your Hagen? I don't know what that is. Was that degree on your career? I don't know what that word is, Joseph. Sorry. Alicia, what exactly are you talking? Oh, is Alicia here? Oh, that Alicia. Different Alicia. How could you not support taxes in a country as huge as America? Genuinely curious. Let me know if you find out. Caroline Morrison asks, do I agree with taxes or nah? Please, do you agree with taxes or nah? Nah, I don't. Nah, I don't. Just kidding. Yeah. I'm a progressive Democrat most days. 350 days out of the year. He said hygiene. Too many choices to vote. Yeah. Yeah, taxes are good. Yeah. Yeah, Rousseau talked about taxes as a way of supporting, or, government in general. Law and policy was about supporting social organization and what people conceive of as freedom in general. So not just negative liberties, but also positive freedoms and all that stuff. All of that stuff. No, so definitely taxes, definitely democratic representation, and definitely a little bit of civic responsibility, civic duty. You are a typical liberal. Pops 1970. Thank you. Thank you. No way. Smell water. No way. Yeah, I like John. I don't mind John Rawls. I don't mind John Rawls. John Rawls could be said to undermine, even himself undermine, like the way in Rawlsian language, just for one or two people in the audience, maybe more, but yeah, John Rawls, maybe we can talk about him sometime, or I'll do something on the main page about John Rawls. He's a political philosopher. He studied out of Harvard. He talks about game theory and human rationality and how that plays into forming a just society, a society where justice is, you're able to grab onto it, you can describe it, you know what it is. And so I think John Rawls, when he thinks about humans as using game theoretic calculations within the Rawlsian lexicon, so thinking about wealth and rights and who gets to actually pursue goals and how do we calculate it when there's inequality versus inegalitarianism? Are both of those relevant? I think Rawls undermines the role of game theory in general. Not talking about competition, but when like the very typical liberal argument that the worst poor person in a liberal society is still 10 times better. I think there's some aspect of human nature that's not unimportant that drives that way. It drives that way. Yeah, and sorry to folks that aren't in the US, I apologize, but this is how progressive and liberal and soft I am. Maybe how stupid I am, no offense, but we're not getting too carried away on a cloud or whatever, but it's hard to say that the world itself did not vote for, well, we don't want Hitler. We don't want Hitler having oil. We don't want people like Hitler having oil. And so guess who actually does own the oil? Well, it's going to turn out that it is a lot of the United States. And it turns out that in order for that to happen, you also have to have Europe. And then eventually it also turns out for that to happen, that other countries have to behave ethically and within what we consider some theory of the law, some theory of society. Your polity has to be understandable. Now that a country like China has been so successful really since the very late 80s towards now, some people could say that, look, that was never the actual thesis in the first place. This is just a form of a runaway empire. That's a strong critique. It's a strong critique. I'm throwing up, waiting for the sentencing. Hitler is dead, bro. Let it go. Free Diddy. Diddy chat. Let's go, baby. No, y'all, get out of here. I had feminism in the title. I wanted to talk to Big Beautiful Bill. We're not talking about any of that stuff. We ain't talking about any of it. Yeah, and so culture and norms, I think a lot of people say liberals got soft because of culture and norms. Culture and norms. And they forgot that in the modern statement of liberalism, you're actually talking about competition alongside what it means to have sort of liberal trade, liberal government, limited government. Even the Democrats believe in limited government, and most people forgot that. Democrats talk all the time about a limited government. Limited government, right? Yeah, you shouldn't be hiring government agencies to break the law. I don't know. My brain's kind of fried, but if I had to wax poetically about it, what's it called? Yeah. That's the old liberalism, is that you need to talk about liberal competitive game theory, like I said already. And yeah, where did that go? Well, the Koch brothers and this objectivism and anarcho sort of capitalist version of reality. There's also like this pseudo like black shirt, Italian black shirt, fascist MAGA stuff. All of this competition went into one guy. It went into a guy like Steve Bannon or whoever. Take your pick. Lindsey Graham. Take your pick. Take your pick. Tulsi Gabbard has to lie about the stuff that she used to do as a Democrat. She has to lie about her beliefs. She had to lie, and so she's lying again. Really bad. Sorry if I'm pissing anyone off. That's not my intention, but yeah. Gracefully winning and gracefully losing is gone by the wayside. Gracefully competing. Some people would say that even hard competition can still be graceful. One of the things I like doing on YouTube is watching the game of Risk Global Domination. I don't know if anyone else plays Risk or has played Risk, but it's a video game. It's like a board game where you compete to win. There's a lot of competition, but people play to win, play to lose, play to learn, play to have a good time, play to become one of the best in the world, play to become someone who's capable of playing and being one of the best in the world, whatever it is. All that shit. So, hey, good to see you. D-Doobies, hello. Yeah, that's where liberalism went in my view. My big old schemed up view is that you have people that forgot that life isn't a video game, but the truest part of a video game is still true about life, right? The truest thing about a digitized version of society, right? For some of my more left-leaning methodology scholars here, a digitized society, or a society who embraces being founded on utility maximization because it includes the rest of reality, right? It connects to physics at some point if you follow it. You can be a good economist and describe society too. Liberalism used to want that stuff inside of it, and it still does, but it also then, once you start adopting like really diffract worldviews, you talk about Marxism, talk about something else. Once you do all that shit, whatever. Once you talk about justice, I think you have a commitment at that point. That might be a wrong idea, but I think if you talk about justice or you talk about human nature, then you should also be talking about justice. What about that kind of bullshit? That stuff seemed to go away too. I need help with the vote. Hey, what's up, everybody? Victor L, good to see you. Smellwater, good to see you. Fascism. What's up, The Truth? Good to see you. Ethan Moore, good to see you. DW, good to see you. Chief Mr. Kingnut, good to see you. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I believe in unaliving poor people, but in a balanced way. Nah, that's all goofed up. Hey, Isabel, thanks for hanging out. You guys, if you want to check out the leaderboard, Isabel's #1 on the leaderboard. Been hanging out a lot of the night. If whatever, I don't know if they're trying to, but yeah, huge thanks to everyone that joined and all that stuff. Adam Ashraf. Yeah, I'm poor. That justice talk. Yeah, so to me, a political opinion is about being able to take a really important idea. Some people would say a great idea. Some people would say a sweeping idea or an overarching idea, and they're able to actually make both descriptive and predictive recommendations about the world, right? Like somebody was saying, we should kill poor people in an ethical way. I don't believe that, obviously. But that's an example of a prescription. When you're talking about fascism, the prescription is get rid of the individual. When you talk about fascism, you're talking about getting rid of an individual is what you talk about, actually, most of the time. And so, uh, so, um, uh, so, so, uh, and this is one of those things that I feel is a mischaracterization of intelligent thought, is that when someone says liberalism and they're able to make specific prescriptions about the way the world should be, and you're not actually talking about a tradition of thought, right? Same thing, if someone's talking about Marxism, if we want to talk about the connection between Marxism and modern democratic socialism with Zoran Mamdani, then if you're talking about 150 years of intellectual history that has specific examples to inform a person's beliefs and policy prescriptions, well, then you should be making prescriptions. But if you can't do that, what happens? What do we see 10 times out of 10? Millennials love talking about this stuff. Millennials have always loved this. Millennials talked about, people tell you what to think and believe. Maybe it's not propaganda, but it is the blind leading the blind, right? It's the dumb getting dumber. And then we never in the first place asked why it's the case. Why is it the case that we're not talking about the tradition of liberalism? Can you not do that, right? Are we back to this in 2025? Is it the year 2010 again? We are finding our words. Finding our words. Dude is striking out. Answer me for right now. I'm just stoked that I got the chance today to see what it is about, so to speak. So nothing, dead man, tell no tales. Unfortunately, the rich are greedy for power and money, says via airship. You look like you think buying leather is luxury. Are you guys making poor people jokes? No. Yeah, that's funny as shit. I understand that one. The so-called modern democratic socialism is exactly what Hugo Chavez preached during campaign. Yeah. Who knows? I know some people, Mauro Augusto Mejia. Sorry if I'm saying your name wrong. I apologize. That's the best I'm going to do because we're at hour 3.5. But yeah, I think it's fine I think it's healthy because I'm in the US, obviously. I'm very white, very American. Like, cool. Yeah, if you believe Hugo Chavez was and is a revolutionary leader of free people, or, you believe Vladimir Putin and the Russian Federation are actually a collectivist enterprise, like, that's cool. We should have that conversation because in the US, obviously, we have guys like Donald Trump who would be very difficult to construe as like a staunch Democrat, right? Donald Trump doesn't look democratic, so now why it's not consistent for me to say you can't talk about that. But what about the praxis, right? Let's use the language. What about the praxis of Hugo Chavez? Isn't it also true that Hugo Chavez, while I'm sure he's a intelligent, respectable man, he's gotten to the point where it appears Venezuela isn't capable of operating without severe repression and human rights abuses. So, of course, there's power projection, and I'm sure there's lots of reasons for that. But isn't it also partially the case that at some point, or in some context, you can say that maybe this is a if you're talking about modern democratic socialism and you want to talk about an important idea, even if you're talking about an important idea in a fascist manner or in a way that fascists will latch onto, well, who knows? Who knows? Difficult. That's what I was trying to say. Trump, busy building alligator concentration camps with FEMA instead of a fully committing to helping the country where FEMA needed, or with FEMA instead of fully helping the country where FEMA is needed. Yeah, obscured productions. Yeah, I think the national implications for being able to quickly and without any resistance open detention centers for what a lot of people already feel is an overfunded and illegal way to enforce immigration means that there's lots of specific reasons and lots of general reasons to oppose alligator Alcatraz. If people want to call it that, alligator Gitmo, which is it? Yeah. I would like to hear if you're a Trump supporter in chat. Let me know. What are the reasons MAGA? What are the reasons that the Make America Great Again movement or modern Republicans would give Democrats? Modern Republicans, right? Let's take it from there. If I grant you that it's illegal to be in the country illegally, I grant you this. And I accept it's a big problem. What other issues in immigration, be it social or economic or policy or geopolitics, are important in order to make sure we're not overstepping our bounds? What's the best version of the conversation that we can have? And grant me that, it must be the case that there's a better way for us to do it than the way that we have been doing it. Midnight Fuego. Let's go, baby. Thorben funneling money to prison companies. Yes, for-profit prisons. If you're going to be locked up, you got to be locked up the right way. This is one of those things that only in America, folks. Only in the United States. As it turns out, lots of places actually have a specific philosophy or theory about the way in which they can lock you up, and people love reducing those down to finances. Is that always the case? Who knows? It's a really big, complex issue. I think it is absolutely justified, not that you asked me for permission for your belief. I think it's absolutely justified to say that, well, look, if it's the case that people are doing this for profit, and if it's also the case that this money is coming from taxpayers through some sort of channel, that we should ask about what those are, and we should be able to talk about whether or not those promote justice in the first place. What does it take in order to have a fair, safe, just internment once someone's been convicted to go to prison? And what's the other side of that? What are the alternatives? What's the conversation? Longdon family asks, shouldn't we all want to make America great again? Yeah, absolutely. I think it's condescending, just to be completely honest. I think it's an interesting conversation. If you were to suggest to me, here's how I want to make America great again. These are the things that I think made America great in the first place, and this is why I don't think it's great today. I think it's condescending that you are suggesting that people are not behaving patriotically. I think it is infuriating and condescending when you are imagining that someone in the United States is not carrying a burden like you are, which is what I think you're doing. For that reason, I'm going to no, I was about to say I'm going to ban you. No, I'm just kidding. It's an interesting question. But the reason that question is interesting is, unfortunately, I don't think it's because of the way you asked it. I think the reality of it is that if it is the case that you want to make America great again by etching on stone the way you subjectively see fit people's contribution to the United States versus looking at what that actually might be and what's an appropriate sort of bite-sized chunk of that conversation right now, right? You know, well, ask your dad, ask your grandpa. If you're not from the United States, ask your dad or grandpa about your country, where you are from. And I think everyone contributes in the United States, whether they're willing or not. I think everyone does. And so America is a great place because America has never stopped working, just like everywhere else in the world. So let's talk about justice. Shouldn't we all want to make America the most just country in the world again? Thank you. Adam, please do not, whatever that is. Yeah, guys, no interpersonal connecting at all in chat. Thank you. Yeah, no interpersonal connecting in chat. Thank you. Are you woke, Fanoke? Nico Scarpetti. Beautiful Italian name, by the way. I hope your Nona or Mimi is doing well. Nico Scarpetti. Am I woke? I don't know what you mean by woke. If you can define woke for me, I can happily answer. I can happily answer for sure. Happily answer for sure. Mauro Augusto Mija left a really long comment. Let's read this one. This looks good. Mauro says the deal with patriotism is just national identity and unity. With rational cheerfulness and pride about the country we live in and just want to make better. It's past, present, and future. So the deal with patriotism is just national identity and unity. Yeah, so when we're talking about the social structure and we're talking about maybe normative statements about that related to identity, maybe some descriptive statements as well. I might say something like, well, I love America. I am patriotic and American because I worked in whatever it is. I worked in FinServ. I worked in tech. Cool. That's awesome. That's awesome. I might say something like, yeah, and so I think that's good because I made money and I knew my coworkers. I knew some of my coworkers would retire with $1 million in their retirement account. Maybe it's a little selfish, but at the end of the day, I think it's what politicians and people all over the world are asking for. We'll talk about it eventually. So national identity and unity. And so we're willing to go out and work for those descriptive, normative sort of claims as well. Not just what is, but why it ought to or is that way. That type of normative claim as well. With rational cheerfulness and pride about the country, so these psychologies that we're working up into, with rational cheerfulness and pride about the country we live in because we want to make better. It's past, present, and future. It's past, present, and future. So at the end of this, when you say past, present, and future, I think of human nature. Rational cheerfulness and pride, I feel like these are inferior ways to describe human nature. We talk about competitiveness. I think it's great rhetoric and political speech from Mauro Augusto Mija. I'll pin that message up because I think it's a very well-worded comment, if you guys want to take a gander at that. And so sorry to put you on a pedestal or call you out there, but that is what we are doing. Derek, the only time we are truly united is when we are under attack from foreign entities. Politics has divided us into tribes, labels, and mental illnesses. Very weird. If you guys want to hit like and subscribe, this is what we do. It's fun to banter about Diddy and stuff, but a lot of times these types of conversations help support me, support the channel, I think. But yeah, there's it's YouTube, so there's tons of people, right? The only time we are truly united is when we are under attack from foreign entities. Politics has divided us into tribes, labels, and mental illnesses. Yeah. Cool. Well, if that's what Derek thinks, I will think the same thing. Yeah. Yeah. Tribalism as a non-essential characteristic of non-essential but a constructed characteristic. Constructivism is a big term in sociology. So yeah, if we've got anyone in college or applying to college, or you're finding your next sort of rabbit hole to go down, yeah, constructivism is a theory both in international relations as well as sociology. It's a really important term to know. And what Derek's talking about when we think of labels, when we think about having to call people crazy, we think about the self-gaslighting because, well, you know, whatever, you know, maybe I feel crazy because I didn't vote for Kamala and I'm a Democrat. I don't know. I'm making something up. Maybe it sounds crazy to me that we just had a bill voted for that increases the national debt by $5 trillion, which is irresponsible to us and other people. And we didn't have any conversation about it, right? So I'm not self-gaslighting. Personally, that was a crazy thing for the United States to do. But yeah, constructivism might say, well, yeah, if there is tribal or very nationalized versions of politics that is coming out of this sort of slowing transition out of the service economy, there's ambiguity, maybe there's some aspects of our sort of nascent identity around sustainable things that are falling off. I don't know, all of that stuff. Upgrade 101 says, we know politicians on both sides have been corrupt for decades. Insider trading, special interest payouts, military-industrial complex. It's no longer left versus right. It's deep state versus MAGA. Yeah, we know politicians on both sides have been corrupt for decades. Yep. How do you know? Which ones? Insider trading, special interest payouts, military-industrial complex. It's no longer left versus right. It's deep state versus MAGA. Yeah, you have a right to believe that. You're obviously not asking for permission. But is it justified? What's the story behind the stories? That would be my question for you. Upgrade 101. I think that what you wanted to do was, it's a well-written comment. I'll give you that. But what I won't give you is that it is any way true. I'm sorry, I just lost connection for a brief second. Yeah, so Upgrade 101, I would suggest to you that, yeah, there's not only a story, but there would be a factual basis for all of the claims which you made, which are about, you want me to say it's about all of society, but it's not actually about how most humans use their full brain to understand all of society. It's not how I do it. I can't say all politicians are corrupt. All politicians are corrupt. All politicians are corrupt. It's difficult for me to not accuse you rhetorically of saying, well, this is just what I feel about things and people should respect that. And the way you subjectively feel about something and this creating your worldview, to me, is like the most derogatory form of woke in the first place. So how is it not the case that there is no deep state, but in fact, you are just being incredibly subjective? You're being incredibly subjective while being inaccurate. You shouldn't be both. Let me know how I missed something. To know the politicians on both sides have been corrupt for decades. Insider trading. Oh yeah. Whoops. That's the same thing. Thank you for your self-awareness, Marlo. You're talking nonsense. Bobby M. Why are conservatives Christians when they have so much hate? Do you really believe in Jesus? I don't know if that's for me. I am a secular person. I am an atheist. I will be more atheist when, if I was doing a religion talk or something, I would talk about theology. I'd also talk about being an atheist. I think that's a very leading question, Bobby M. So I think there's, if you don't want to be lukewarm Christian, there's really a lot to love about social justice. right? That's what a great Catholic should tell you. That's what a great Catholic should tell you. Yeah, but as an atheist, I think Christian politicians oversimplify things. I think that if you are a Catholic in the United States, like, for God's sake, there's complexity in the world. Accept it. Accept it. You want to learn about the deep state? The deep state is the shills and hacks on Fox News? Come on, give me a break. You want to, in 5 minutes with Sean Hannity, change your worldview. Sean Hannity doesn't change his own wig in 5 minutes. You go on Fox News and you can take a program serving food, giving nutrition to people in thousands of different life circumstances, millions, each one unique. And in 5 minutes, people believe Sean Hannity can tell you the truth about that program. My MAGA friends, my conservative friends, I love you guys. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry if I'm being too harsh. But I'm not at all, right? This is what honesty looks and sounds like, is that you're not going to develop an opinion about welfare in 5 minutes. You're not going to update your opinion about welfare in 5 minutes. Someone who is paid to lie to you on a major network isn't going to update your opinion in 5 minutes. Now, the reason I think MAGA is particularly worse than the Democrats on this, if you want to have a rhetorical battle, if we've decided it's a good day to not learn something or update our opinions about anything, not come away with a hard problem to imagine and think about, well, I would say that liberals have proudly and can proudly be lazy. You heard it here. Heard it here for her. Heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first, folks. That if it is the case that liberalism in the United States, and by liberalism I mean progressivism, and by that I also mean progressive Democrats, is pushing towards the only viable future, the only way a conversation can be had about a viable future, then it's also the case that then it's also got to just, I don't know what I was saying. I crashed out. My brain crashed out. We were going somewhere. We were going somewhere with it. Yeah. No, but if progressive Democrats are the ones talking about what a future can be like, and that's not too scary, you can accept the rhetoric and accept what I mean by this is that, well, you have to have a social safety net, and you have to, in the Congress, in any form of the government, you have to have people talking about like risk issues like sustainability, because we're a society, so you can't not have risk. Well, yeah, who knows? That's it. Thanks for joining, guys. We are almost going into hour number 4. I appreciate everyone for joining. I'm going to call it a night fairly soon. Thank you. So first of all, huge thanks to all of you for hanging out. Thanks to all 338 who voted in the poll and all 82 who liked the video. If you want to like and subscribe, that's awesome. Do these kind of mobile streams. I'm going to start doing fitness streams. I did the first one today. We had 1,500 people show up over the course of a couple hours. So that was very cool. Really chill, not like high intensity, super sigma hit training or anything like that. But it's just something. Some nights, some days I might do that. Talk to you guys a bit, talk to you folks a bit. And then some other days, who knows? Maybe we come around to the feminist topic sometime soon, or not. Maybe we actually get into the big, beautiful bill. We kind of covered it indirectly a little bit today. But yeah, Amazon Prime Day is coming up. I hope you guys have a good buying holiday if you're not in the United States. Thanks for joining. I hope we get a chance to talk. I hope I get a chance to share a global perspective, or I get a chance to listen to your global perspective. All of that stuff's really fun for me. You guys make it worth it in chat. You guys make it fun for the full 4 hours. So I am truly appreciative and grateful. Once again, my name is Duck. This is Duck's Y. If you want to like and subscribe, I appreciate it. Yeah, and yeah, you know, the other things we do on the show or on the channel, sometimes we'll talk about political theory. We can talk about physics if you guys want. I can go a little deeper than I have, you know, so far in the past. And yeah, and yeah, you know, it's always great to share a couple academic tidbits, you know, all that stuff. If you guys haven't had, like me, I've had the last 2 or 3 years to focus on health, focus on learning, focusing on being able to learn about topics to hopefully communicate with you guys. Um, that stuff's a lot of fun. That's what I like to do in my spare time is, yeah, go on Reddit, go on Wikipedia, learn something, write about it, think about it. And so, yeah, if you guys want, like and subscribe. Yeah, we can go, you know, paper cut surface level on it. You guys can take it deeper than I ever could. Maybe we get together some live streams on the channel like I have in the past. Who knows? That's like way too much self-promotion or just the right amount, I think, at this point. So I'm going to call it a stream. Thank you guys for joining. Please do like, please subscribe. Thank you for contributing in chat. You guys are awesome. Have a good night, and I will catch you some other time.